Special Operations, Covert Ops, Espionage, The Team House, with your hosts, Jack Murphy and David Park.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 151 of The Team House. I'm Jack Murphy here with David Park, D over in that direction producing. We're very excited here to be with our guest, Dale Comstock. Dale is somebody who has done a little bit of everything, kind of done it all in life. Dale has served in the 82nd Airborne, in Special Forces, served as a Delta operator. I believe, Dale, you were the youngest operator in the unit at the time when you graduated selection. This guy participated in Operation Acid Gambit, the Kurt Muse hostage rescue mission in Panama. That was the first successful military hostage rescue operation historically that our country's ever done. Dale served in the Gulf War, served as a team sergeant, and then he retired and went on to become a paramilitary contractor, had further adventures over in Afghanistan, which we're going to talk about a little bit in a moment. And then, Dale, he wrote a memoir called American Badass. He thought this was kind of his sunset book. He was going to fade away into the ether after he finished this book. But instead, crazy things kept happening to him in places like Yemen, Hong Kong, Singapore, and even in Hollywood. So we're going to talk a lot about Dale's sort of post-service military career. There's a lot more to Dale. I think you should go read American Badass if you want to hear more about his military career. We're going to kind of talk about his post-service, post-military career and get into some of the things that he's doing today and some of the books he's working on. So, Dale, thank you so much for joining us from Bali tonight.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So sticking with that theme, that little intro that I went off on, I was wondering if you could start off telling us some stories about Barja Matal in Afghanistan. I believe you were part of a very small group of people that got sent up into, that was really bad guy country and the terrain just vicious up in that part of Afghanistan.
Yeah, so there were actually 3 FOBs up there, and each FOB, I believe, had roughly about a platoon plus element occupying this FOB. Earlier, a couple months earlier, one of the FOBs had been overrun, and one of the encampments had been overrun, and I think there was a total of 9 casualties. 9 Americans were killed, a lot of Afghanis, of course, Taliban. And so the decision was made to pull out the other outposts, the other 2 outposts that were up there, and one of them was, Barja Matal. And the way so we were asked by U.S. Mill if we could bring our guys in to help support their withdrawal. So what they were going to do is literally in the course of 3 days, they were going to literally take everything out of this camp and extract it. So the camp was in a valley with nothing but high ground all the way around it. And it was, as you point out, it was some really rugged terrain. It kind of reminded me, I remember landing at night one time thinking, man, this feels like the jungles of Panama, very wooded, very humid, very, rough terrain. But they were sitting right down in this little tiny valley, man. And the camp was probably 150 meters square, maybe. It was very small. It had one little HLZ in the middle that could support one helicopter landing on it. And that was it. And this platoon had been there for at least a year already, and they got no break, man. They were literally every day in gunfights. They couldn't even leave the wire to go patrol, and they were constantly on defense. They were getting hammered down there. And so the decision was made that we got to pull them out. But they couldn't just bring in helicopters. The guys would load up everything and fly away, because as soon as the helicopters would come in, they would be in contact. So the plan was for us, me and my guys, to fly in. They brought us in. We flew in on some Mi-17s, and we had 2 lifts. We went in, and I think it was probably a total of about 30 of us, me and 2 other Americans, and then the rest Afghans. And we flew in the middle of the night, roughly around 10, 11 o'clock at night. Got out, met with the commander, and basically he explained to us what the mission was. Basically, what they wanted us to do was go outside the wire and patrol the area around the base camp, and basically just keep the bad guys back, keep them engaged, so that the soldiers within the camp could load their gear. They were going to bring in some helicopters. They were going to load up. They actually had a Humvee there too. I don't know how they got that there, why they were using it, but they had a Humvee. They were going to take that out. They were just going to load up these aircraft over the course of 3 days and just keep lifting everything else out of the camp. And hopefully within 72 hours, the camp would be evacuated. In the meantime, our job was to just go out there and make contact with the bad guys and keep them back so this operation could take place. Well, I remember that night we arrived. We met with the captain. Told him what we're going to go do. We refitted, and then we went out the wire. And we had our mission was to go up the road about maybe 4 or 5 kilometers. There was a madrasa up there, and the Taliban used that as a staging base. Basically, they would link up there, get on their war paint and shit, and then they would launch their assaults from there. So we were just going to go meet them there at the madrasa and get it on. So as we leave the wire, we're walking up the road. It's relatively dark, and then all of a sudden, the first CH-47 is flying in. It's going to land. They're going to load it, and then it's going to take off with its supply. Well, as the helicopter was coming in for a very slow and low hover, there was a Taliban on the other side of the wire with an RPG. And guess what he does? He shoots it down, and it crashes into the fucking camp.
Oh,
and
shit.
So, onto the only HLZ they got, right? So, bam, it slams into the deck. The round went through the floor of the helicopter. It actually took off the leg of one of the crew chiefs. So now we got a disabled helicopter sitting inside the camp. They can't get it out. They can't do anything with it. They can't bring in more helicopters. Can't medevac the guys out. And then the firefight started. So we turn around and you could just see green tracers coming down from the high ground, red tracers going up, and there's a full-on firefight, man. And so we're standing there going, okay, well, what do we do? Do we try to go back and support them? But then we knew that would be a problem because trying to re-enter, friendly forward lines, we're going to get caught in a crossfire.
Yeah.
There's going to be drama with that, right? So we realized, okay, there's nothing we can do out here. Let the army, let the military, deal with those guys, and then we're going to continue mission. So we go up the road, we make it to the madrasa, and it's a dry hole. There's nothing there. So we're like, okay, let's move it on up, push up at about another 4 kilometers. There's another village up there. Again, we know this is all Taliban country, and so we go up there. As we're crossing the bridge, we get word that we got squatters going out the other side of the village. So anyways, they clear the village, they get away, nothing happens. We come back that morning, the firefight's over, and we refit, regroup, and now we got this issue with this helicopter sitting in the camp. Now what are we going to do? So what was really interesting was, and I didn't know this, but apparently the Army, they have pilots that are specially trained to fly crippled aircraft, right? So what they did is they brought us this one badass pilot, man, and they roped him in, a fast rope, and his job was to go down there and start that aircraft and fly it out of there.
Wow.
Broken hull, man. Yeah, I didn't know that. I was like, damn, this guy's got some balls, man. One guy, man, that's his job, right? And so when they brought him in, they roped him in, and then they brought a bunch of fast movers, came flying in, and basically was strafing the hillsides to keep the bad guys down, while this guy was, turning knobs and pulling levers and cranking this thing up. He actually got it out of there. He actually flew this broken helicopter out of that HLZ. He cleared it up for us. So we decided, okay, the next night we'll continue mission, and we decided, okay, let's go. I forget the direction, but I think it was west. We said we're going to go west. There's a village about 6 kilometers away. We know the Taliban stages out of there also. And so we're just going to go down there and, set up an ambush, knowing they're going to come and hit the camp that night, and we're just going to ambush them. So we take off, and I remember we're walking around this ridge line. It's really steep, man. I mean, really steep. And we're walking on a goat trail that was maybe 18 inches, 24 inches wide. It was real muddy and slippery. There's a lot of water running down, and we're wearing night vision goggles. It's pitch black. There's a lot of trees, and we're cruising along, and then all of a sudden I hear my interpreter behind me fall off the cliff, right? And he and he falls like maybe, I don't know, 20, 25, 30 feet down the side of this cliff, right? And he lands on a little ledge down there, and I could hear him, making, hoofing and puffing sounds and stuff. And I turn around and look down and I see him, and I see what looks like just his whole face is like black. And the black was actually blood. Right? We wear night vision goggles. So it looked, it was dark black, but it was all blood. And he knocked his teeth out. His teeth were sticking out through his lips, his gums and stuff. And and I looked at, his name was HD. We call him HD for Harley Davidson, right? He loved Harley Davidsons, even though he'll never own one. That was his thing, so we always call him HD. I go, HD, you okay? Yes, sir. I'm okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm like, you don't look good. And so we finally, we pull him up, and I'm looking at him like, holy shit, dude, you're a mess. And then he begins to explain to me how that was the first night he ever wore night vision goggles. I said, are you kidding me? This is the first time you've been out on operation and you're wearing MVGs on a goat trail? And I'm like, holy shit, man, what were you thinking, dude? And so anyways, he fell off the cliff because he couldn't see, because he didn't know how to use night vision goggles properly. And so we're sitting there, and we had a Navy medic with us, and I bring him back, Corman, and he's kind of patching up, HD. And then while we're sitting there, we're looking with the thermals. We could see, so we're on this ridge line. We could see directly across to another ridge line about 250, 300 meters across from us. And we notice a small fire burning. And so, hold on for a second. Hey. I got my maid in here. She's cleaning and talking to my employees. So anyway, so we see this fire burning, and we're looking and go, okay, that looks really suspicious, man. Well, it turns out it was 12 Taliban, and what they were doing, they were one terrain feature away from the camp. So what they were doing is staging there. What they're going to do is get all spun up and then come around and hit the camp that night from that position. So that was their MSS, basically, their support site. And so anyways, so we call for close air support, and there happens to be I think it was an F-15 on station. He had a couple of JDAMs with him, and he was quite a ways out. You could even hear the aircraft. So we said, hey, this is us. We think we identified Taliban location. We gave him the location. He's looking using his optics, and like I said, he was so far out you couldn't even hear the guy. You had no idea he was on station, but he could actually see. And he's actually counting. He goes, yeah, you got 12 guys, armed AK-47s, weapon systems, blah blah blah. And he's very in detail describing these guys. Like, holy shit. So we're like, all right, well, send them to Allah, man. And so the guy releases a 1,000-pound JDAM. And the time of flight was 45 seconds. And when he released it, he said, yeah, it's en route. We actually laid the target for him. And you never heard the aircraft. You never even heard the JDAM until it went off. And when it went off, all you saw was pieces and parts flying through the air. Arms and legs, AK-47. We captured it all on infrared video. And we kind of watched it the next day and reveled over it. But so we did that, and so we're like, okay, a mission accomplished. We don't need to go all the way to the village. We go back, and then the next day, these guys got the ass, I guess, decided it was time for some payback. So they come rolling around there again, some more of them, and there happened to be an LPOP up on the high ground, and a bunch of privates up there with M240, 249s, and they just unleashed and killed another 12. Killed another 12 in broad daylight coming around there. So we smoked quite a few guys in a couple of days we were there. And we ended up, getting everybody out, every last man out, get all the equipment out, and was able to withdraw within the 72 hours anyways, in spite of a shot down helicopter in the compound. So, but it was really, looking back at that, it's like, man, these guys were living hardcore, little poncho hooches for a year, sleeping in the mud. They had no Wi-Fi, no TV. They had nothing, man. They were living in really rough field conditions for a year, and they're fighting it out every day. And I'm like, man, that's some hardcore shit there. But glad to get them out of there because, man, they were taking a beating, and they were pretty much combat ineffective. They couldn't leave the wire. They're just sitting ducks, and getting pock shots at them. So, but that was an interesting mission. It was a lot of fun. Went pretty fast, but we got her done and got everybody out of there. So, unfortunately, the other camp, we didn't deal with the other camp, but the first camp, they took some serious casualties up there. I remember when that firefight happened, it was a big deal. And these three FOBs were the northernmost U.S. mil camps in Afghanistan. There was nothing else up there. I mean, they were way out there too. I mean, really tough terrain to get to. Like I said, the helicopter is the only way you get in and out of there. And they shot down the one helicopter into the HLs. It could have been worse, man. Yeah, I could just imagine had this thing, disintegrated in the compound. Maybe killed a bunch of men or something. And hit fuel dumps. It could have been a disaster, man. But it all worked out. Like I said, I was really impressed with the pilot. I didn't know that they had guys like that. It's like, that guy's got a pair of balls like a bull, man. You're going to come in there and you're going to rope him in at night, and then he's going to get in the cockpit and start pushing buttons and pulling levers and praying to God this thing fucking flies out of there, And he did it, man. He actually did it. So pretty cool.
Dale, that's actually, you mentioned these FOBs, and that's something. And for those of you who don't know, it's just a forward operating base. It's, a little camp out in the middle of nowhere generally. But, we've talked about how special ops is really, everybody loves the sexy mission of special ops, but these conventional forces were out there, like at these remote places or on these long patrols, mixing it up all the time. And they really don't get the credit that they deserve.
No, it's true, man. That's true. I was up in the Korengal also, and so you had a bunch of FOBs in that area. Same thing. Those guys were just getting pounded every day, man. Korengal was regarded as the most dangerous place on the planet at that time. And it wasn't if you're going to get in contact, it was when and how bad. But if you go up into Korengal, you're going to get smacked, And there were guys up there every day, slinging lead with each other with the bad guys, So they're you're right, man. They're out there, they're doing it, and they're living in some hardcore conditions, and it sucks. But on one hand, I mean, I kind of live for that, man.
Right.
Cool,
Right. Of course you do.
Yeah, Dale, as I recall, I mean, you retired from the Army like just before 9/11. And I mean, I don't think there's any way that a dude like you was going to miss the war on terror. You did find a way, of course, obviously, to deal your way into the action. I remember you once telling me that you actually went out on ops by yourself a few times with an Indige, which I thought was pretty cool. I mean, what was this experience like? I guess we're going to say OGA. What was that like by comparison to your military experience?
I want to say it was better because, one, I was entrusted with a lot of men and a lot of money and mission, right? So, I mean, I was literally downrange. I only can describe it like Colonel Kurtz up the river in Apocalypse Now. There were times I was up the river at a camp with me, maybe one or two other Americans, maybe, and with anywhere from 50 to 500, Afghan mercenaries. And especially in the beginning of the war, I had a lot of latitude just to get the job done. I can remember walking into the camp, to the base, ops, and talking to the chief there, going, "Hey, man, I'm going to take the guys out tonight. I'm going to go down the road. I'm going to hit that target. Be back tomorrow morning." And he was like, "Okay." And he's out there, he's painting and shit. He's doing, he's like doing some weird jobs. It's like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, just don't get nobody hurt. Let me know what happens tomorrow morning." Like, "Yeah, roger that." And I'd go do my thing, and there was no, there was no oversight. People just trusted me, and they knew that, I was be able to do the right thing to fight the war on terror and to beat the bad guys, whatever it took. And which was really cool, man, to have that kind of, given that kind of responsibility and had that kind of trust to go do that. And there were times, you're right, as the war went on, I worked with some of the same guys a lot. And, they trusted me. I took care of them. They were my soldiers, but I treated them with respect, with dignity. I cared about them and their lives as well as their families. And so, I did what I thought a leader's supposed to do. Unfortunately, I'm going to say it, but a lot of guys don't get it, particularly, in the Navy. They're working with the indige, and I say the Navy, I'm talking about particularly the SEALs. They don't have that background of working with indigenous people. And Green Berets, as Jack, both you guys, that was our mission, man, is to win hearts and minds, train the indigenous, to basically stand up in our own armies, and to go fight war. And that required that we took care of our guys, and we treated them with dignity, with respect. We didn't treat them like dogs. We didn't talk shit to them. We didn't abuse them, because that will come back and haunt you. That will end you somewhere on the battlefield by your own men. If you do that wrong. And so, but these other guys didn't get that. And I got countless stories about that. But anyways, that was my mission, was, always do the right thing by my soldiers. And so I had to pay, I had the checkbook, and, if the guys did a really good job, it's like, here you go, here's a bonus to take the day off, take 2 days off. In fact, I took care of my guys that way because I knew that would, the return would be huge on that down the road when I needed it. And I was right. So I had a platoon of guys that, 42 in fact, that, these guys, I would literally go out on operations by myself with them. Now I know I'm breaking, I was breaking protocol and all kinds of rules, the 2-man rule, as an American, you got to go out with another American. But I got to the point with these guys that I trusted them so much. We'd been out downrange so many times that, I remember them telling me, I remember one time they had a little formation, and they're like, Mr. Dale, we will never let anything happen to you. We will build a human wall around you. We will protect you with our lives. And I believe that, man, because I saw it, And so I could go out downrange for 2-3 days at a time. Nobody knew where the hell I was at. I was everywhere in Afghanistan, out in the freaking middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
And we're going out and hitting targets and stuff, and they could have easily let the air out of me out there somewhere and buried me. And said, we don't know where he went,
Yeah.
And but that never happened. And maybe I got lucky. I don't know, but I don't think so. I became very good friends with a lot of these guys, and particularly one of them. He was one of the commanders, young guy, but definitely a go-getter, man. The whole platoon this particular platoon was very different from your typical Afghan. They were more Western oriented. Their mindset, their personalities, you could tell they loved the West, they loved the American way. And so they were different in that regard. But the commander had been around for a while, although he was young. His family had fought the Mujahideen. He had lost, family members. And this guy was on the hit list. Taliban wanted this guy because of who he was and what he was in charge of. And I was always afraid that, when we pull out as Americans, this guy's going to get smoked. They're going to kill him, man, him and his family. And so one day I just never showed back up. I'd been going to the same camp for about almost 18 months. And then I got reassigned because there was a problem at another camp. And it had to do with, the American-Afghan interaction, poor leadership, blah, blah, blah. And I kind of got sent out there to try to, fix this situation. So I never got to go back and see, the commander, and never saw him after that. And then long after I got out, I always wondered what happened to him. I'm like, man, I'm afraid that, he's going to get killed one day. And so lo and behold, I get a message on Facebook. So I was always operating under, a fake name, fake everything. Nobody knew my real name. And this guy had found me on Facebook, and he's messaging me, and he's like, hey, man, he goes, me and my family are now in the United States. He had five boys and a daughter, I think, and his wife. They all made it to the States, made it to Virginia, got a job. People took care of him, but they got him a special visa, got him out of there because they recognized that this guy's going to get killed, man. No doubt. He's going to get killed when America's left. And, look what happened, man. Let's look at what happened last August, right? Here we go. How many people got killed, out there, and how many people are still getting killed. I guarantee you, he would have been one of those guys, man. In fact, some of my guys were killed. Some of my guys, they basically, I think it was a total of 13. It was a last stand for them, man. They literally fought to the last bullet and then got killed. Trying to keep the Taliban wave back. So I know it happened, and it was going to happen to him. He beat the odds and got out of there. He's living in the United States. I actually just saw him about 2 years ago, which was really cool. But yeah, I would go out with these guys, on a regular basis by myself, and I trusted them. And it is what it is, We got the job done, and I kind of had a different perspective, I remember the guy that shot down Turbine 33, okay? He was a young guy, in fact, and we got intel one day that he had arrived at one of the local villages, and we knew he was there. And I'm like, oh, great, let's go get this guy. But my unit, the Afghans, had been basically they've been stood down, right, because of this issue I mentioned earlier with the SEALs, and there was a rift is what happened. And it wasn't the Afghans' fault. That was what I found out later on. So anyways, but nonetheless, they were told to stand down for 6 months, retrain this, blah, blah, blah. Now we got this guy, shot down Turbine 33 right down like 2 kilometers away. And I'm like, man, let me take the boys. Let's go get this guy. This guy was on the top of the HVT list. And he was right up there. Everybody wanted this guy. And I remember I was told no, because the guys they're not operational. And I go, the hell, they're not operational. I'm running these guys. I'm telling you, they're operational. This is easy. We roll down the road. We get the guy. We come back. You know? And they just said no, kept saying no. And I'm like, look, you hired me as a contractor. All right, I got all these skills. I said, then I'll go. You pay me a lot of money. Let me just go. If I don't come back, I don't come back. But at least send me, man. I was mission oriented. These guys were risk averse, and it got that way. As later on in the war, everybody became risk averse. Nobody was interested in winning the war. It just became, it became
check the block.
Check the block, right? Yeah. So I remember at some of the camps I'm at, we've got these case officers, these logistics officers, from Paris embassy, from Europe. And we call them combat tourists, as you know, right? They're there checking the block. I was in combat when they never left the damn wire, and they didn't even have a damn firearm on them. It just turned into a total bullshit. That war should have been over a long time ago, but it just turned into a self-licking ice cream for a lot of people, And sadly, it is what it is. But that's why I left in 2011. I just had enough, and I thought, Jesus Christ, I'm going to get killed for what? For nothing. And I was right. I was right. Look what happened, man. Look what happened. All these men are dead. Women are dead for nothing. Nothing happened. Nothing. We killed UBL a long time ago. Why we were still there then?
So
it's all bullshit.
Dale, like you said, you left in 2011 from as far as contracting for our government. You kind of thought you were going to, you did go into television a little bit. You started making some inroads on Hollywood. You thought kind of like your soldiering days were behind you from some of the things you've said. But then in the sequence of events, what was it, the Hong Kong gig that came first?
So what happened was I literally got discovered by Discovery Channel, right? It was kind of weird. And so they said, we'd like for you to try out. It was a TV show called One Man Army. And I thought, okay, that'd be kind of cool. Do that. Be kind of like closing the chapter to my military, paramilitary career, And I thought it'd be kind of a cool way to go out, do a little TV show. And so I did, and I got selected. And so I guess I did pretty well on that show. And then I got a call about 6 months later from NBC, said, hey, we liked what we saw on Discovery. Would you be interested in trying out for this TV show, which was Stars and Stripes? As I understand it, there were about 10,000 applicants that tried out for that show. I was one of 8, along with Chris Kyle and a couple of the other guys that are on the show, to actually get selected. It was a pretty long process. It was a lot of interviews. I'd actually fly out to Universal Studios and do an on-site interview in front of the cameras, Again, I did pretty well, and so I got selected, and there I was. Now I'm doing the Hollywood thing, and then that turned into other people started noticing me, wanted to meet with me. In fact, I went out with, so I became really good friends with Terry Crews, still am to this day. And Eva Torres, the WWE wrestler, she invited me to come out with to an event. So I went out there. While I was out there, I got approached by some people that knew of me. Actually, one of them was a former student of mine, and said, "We'd like to talk to you." And so, okay, we do. And it's a production company. They're pretty right wing out of Dallas. And I said, "We need a poster boy. We want to make a conservative production company. We want to invite veterans to come out and participate in Hollywood events, things like that. We want to be more. We want to do more right-leaning stuff than left-leaning stuff. And we need IEU, the poster boy." So I was all in and started networking, going to a lot of producers. You know, I just started getting around in Hollywood is what was happening. And they were trying to pitch some TV shows for me. I ended up on a few shows. You know, so this whole thing was starting to grow some legs. And a couple years out into it, there's some other weird stuff that happened. I probably shouldn't share it today, but there was some other really weird stuff started happening, right? Little did I know that not only am I a poster boy, but I'm actually a prop for a bigger, for a government agency, let's put it that way. So there's a very huge Chinese or Russian presence in Hollywood. They own everything. So I'll let you put it all together. Next thing I know, I'm like, why are you guys giving me all this cash and I'm not signing for anything, you know, and on a regular basis. And what am I doing here again? You know, just do your thing, you know, be the Hollywood guy, you know, networking. And okay. And I didn't ask any questions. But it got really weird after a while. And then I realized, holy shit, man, I'm in another spy versus spy fucking movie and don't even know it yet. And so, so anyways, after a couple of years, I was asked to move to Hollywood to live out there. I was told I could be the next Danny Trejo. I could be on all kinds of TV shows. And I had to do a little thinking, man. I was like, man, is this who I really am? Is this me? You know, because I don't like these people, man, for the most part. You know, they're a different culture, different mindset. You know, I'm used to actually being an action guy and not pretending to be an action guy, right. You know? And right. So that kind of I ended up moving to Hong Kong. And I was working over there running a security detail for a multi-billionaire investment banker, which is okay. It's kind of cool. I was living downtown Wan Chai, Hong Kong.
Dale, can I interrupt for 1 second for a sponsor quick live read here, and we'll jump right back into your story. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No worries.
Hey, we want to thank our sponsors tonight, Sap Gear. We've told you guys about them before. They have a lot of really cool stuff on their website. It's sapgear.com. But Sap Gear partnered with Ed Calderon to produce his original merchandise. Actually, I'm wearing one of their shirts right now. Very cool stuff. Ed is also known as Ed Manifesto Online. Ed's Manifesto, at Ed's Manifesto Online. He worked in the fields of counter-narcotics, organized crime, investigations, public safety in the northern border of region of Mexico. He's doing a lot of stuff in North America right now, doing security consulting, conducting seminars, private training in anti-abduction, escapology, unarmed combat, and region-specific executive protection work. And Sap Gear carries his original Snake Reaper. This is the logo. It's a cool logo line, including hoodies, hats, shirts, stickers, and more. And I mean, Sap Gear has a lot of stuff that we like.
Really good stuff. We'll talk about in future segments some of the other
gear got good stuff, guys.
Us.
Check out sapgear.com. Long sleeve T-shirts like this one. Sapgear.com team. The team for 15% off. Sapgear.com team for 15% off.
All right, so Dale, back to you. You were working for an investment banker in Hong Kong. That was the deal.
Yeah, so I was protecting. I was running a security detail. I was one of the guys running the security detail. So, you know, I ended up falling into that. A couple things happened that prompted me. Besides the Hollywood thing, I wasn't interested. I started losing interest in it. The other thing that happened was I had sold another one of my companies. So I've owned several companies. I've sold them to G4S, Whack and HUD. I sold this other company in 2011 to another company. I was running this company out of my office at home for about 2 years. making roughly $23,000 a month just sitting in my office. And anyways, that went south. And it didn't go south because I was sitting in my office. It went south because the investors were doing their job. But nonetheless, I decided to pull a pitch and get out of there. Ended up in Hong Kong. And then that's actually where I met my wife. She's Indonesian. And she went back to Indonesia. I went back to the States. And then eventually I went to Indonesia, chasing drawers. That's what we do, right? And so I went over there to meet her and started looking around. And started realizing there's business opportunities. So I'm actually talking to you right now from Bali. That's where my office is, in Bali, Indonesia. But we decided, hey, there's some business opportunities here relative to security, canines, blah, blah, blah. And my wife has started our business here. And we've been in Bali. I've lived in Indonesia now almost 7 years, I think. And I've been in Bali over 4.5 years. And we're running explosive detector dogs, patrol attack dogs, narcotic detector dogs, for like all the Marriott properties and the local venues here. So it's a pretty cool gig. I get to play with my dogs and make money off of them too, and we did really well here right up until COVID, took our legs out from under us like everybody else. It wasn't really COVID. It was all the freaking crooks that capitalized on it. But nonetheless, we're back and we're back in business and just signed another contract, signed 2 contracts. So, we're back in business here. So that's how I ended up in Bali. I live here. I have a home in Florida as well. I also actually have another home in the Philippines. So I kind of live out of a suitcase. So with all that said, you would think that, okay, after the Hong Kong deal, that was kind of a cool gig. Everybody thinks that being a bodyguard is like really, really cool. I got to tell you, man, it sucks. All right. On one hand, living in Hong Kong, that was the cool part. Living in Hong Kong. Okay. One of my favorite cities until the Chinese took back over. But it's a really cool place. But the work of a bodyguard it sucks. And I keep saying that, but it actually sucks. It's a good job for younger guys. But for guys like me, it's like insulting in a lot of ways, So the pay was okay. Actually, the pay has been really well. I got paid very well. And I'll share the story with you about LA here in a minute. But going back to the Hong Kong deal, so here I am providing security for this really wealthy Chinese guy in his mid-50s, late 50s, married to a 32-year-old Mexican model, big old boobs on her, good looking. Beautiful on the inside, but the ugliest person you'll ever meet on the inside. Oh my God, man, she was horrible, man. We all know what that was about. But anyways, it was a difficult job in that, dealing with the client. Yeah. They're just, rich people suck. Okay. That's another thing. Rich people suck. And, there's a reason they're rich, and it's because they're really good at walking over a lot of other people, man, to get there. And that's a fact. I've got a lot of rich business partners, rich friends, rich clients. I got one guy, he's a billionaire, owes me $450,000. And he's a billionaire, and he screwed me out of $450,000, man. So it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, these people. And the lesson learned out of that is be your own boss, be your own success story. Don't count on none of these other people, man, because everybody will take from you. So I said earlier before the interview, how mean and vile and nasty people really are. I got another story on that one too. So anyways, I did this for a while. Like I said, it's kind of a thankless job. You get paid, but you're treated like shit. Here I am, a guy with a PhD. And I got another friend of mine. Ready for this? He's a SEAL commander lawyer for Blackwater, and he's a bodyguard with me. And we got this 32-year-old client, right? With one fucking live brain cell talking down to us like we're little freaking kids. Right. Like what the hell, So that's what I mean by that. But so I ended up doing all that, and then other things started happening. I had an opportunity to go to Yemen. We've kind of talked about that in another episode, but basically while I was here, so the same company I was working for in Hong Kong, they're friends of mine. I worked for them in South Africa, Mexico. I did a lot of stuff for them, contracting as a consultant, security consultant, bodyguard, etc. So here's story out, so I'll go cut right into this one. This was kind of cool. So one night I'm in South Africa, sitting around the pool with a guy, the owner. His name, we'll call him AG. And AG is a pretty freaking hardcore, no shit kind of guy, man. He either likes you or he don't. If he don't like you, he'll let you know about it too. And so luckily I was good friends with the guy and got along just fine with him. So we're in South Africa sitting around the pool one night, and he's like, Dale, he goes, how come you do all these other things? Why don't you just focus on security? And, you could be really good at that and make a lot of money. Why do you do this and do that? Because at the time I was like teaching as a professor for Henley Putnam University. I'm a journeyman. I just travel around doing weird jobs, right? Like going to Singapore and training dogs. And I told him, I said, well, I said, I got a lot of ex-wives out there that need to get paid, freaking parasites, man. I gotta pay them off all the time. I got a lot of kids and shit, And so I said, I go where the work is. I make my money. I said, I'm pretty happy because I get to travel. I get to do different things. I wear a different hat every day. And so it's not so bad. And he looks at me, he goes, what if I gave you $50,000 cash? He goes, would that help you? And I thought about it. I was like, yeah, of course it would help me, but I'm not taking it. And he wanted to give me $50,000 cash because he thought it would relieve some pressure, right? And so that I could focus on just, security, for example. And I said, no, I said, you know what? I said, I can't accept your money. I said, I don't take money I don't earn. And so we kind of got in an argument over the swimming pool, around the swimming pool. And he's like, well, he goes, tell me, Dale. He goes, you've done so much in your life. What's next? What are you going to do next? And I looked at him, I go, I want to be like you. He looks at me like, I go, what? And I go, yeah, I want to be like you. I want to be some rich guy sitting around a fucking pool asking people what they're going to do with their lives, you know, and giving them $50,000. So we ended up parting ways that night, went to our rooms, and the next morning his partner calls me to the office, and he goes, hey, AG left this morning, went back home, but, he just put $50,000 in your bank account. And I was like, what the hell, man? And so he goes, you can't give it back. We're not taking it back. We don't want it back. He goes, listen, other people have helped us. Other veterans have come up and helped us when we needed it. And he goes, we want to do the same thing, And I said, well, I appreciate all that. But I said, I don't work for free. So I said, count this as paying. You've paid this forward. So next time you have a project, I said, you call me. I'll drop what I'm doing. I'll come here, wherever, and go to work for you. Right? You get your money back. So that wasn't even enough, man. Then he put me on a $7,000 a month retainer for the next 6 months. Like, damn. So I'm doing all right. And so then I leave, and I end up going back to Indonesia. I start my security business here. My wife and I are not married yet, but we start this enterprise. And then one day I'm flying back to the U.S., and I get a text message from AG. He goes, hey, man, I need to talk to you about some security-related stuff. This was over a year and a half later, and I thought, man, I'm got my own security business, think it's conflict of interest. I really wasn't interested at this point. I was excited about starting my own company here. So I get to the States, he texts me again and goes, I really, really need to talk to you, but I can't talk to you over the phone. And I'm like, I don't know, AGF, I'm him and a han. He goes, okay, listen. He goes, I'm going to buy your plane ticket to San Diego. He goes, when you get here, I'm going to pay you $6,000 for 3 hours of your time. You got to listen to me. Oh, shit, okay. It must be important. So I fly out there. He's leaning up against this badass freaking Porsche at the airport. I show up. He hands me an envelope with $6,000 cash. And he says, get in, bitch. and we take off, right? And we end up in his neighborhood, which was pretty amazing. He lived next door to Bill Gates and a whole bunch of other people. I'm like, holy shit, this guy's rolling in dough. And he was. So that evening we had we sat down, we had dinner, and he and his partner told me what the plan was, right? And so basically they had a contract with the Emiratis and basically to take out their HVTs, right? They needed a special forces capability, they didn't have it. AG promised them that we could deliver this. And so, I'm okay, yeah, roger that. Sounds like a good idea, pretty cool. But, I'm going back to Indonesia in 3 days, and I really didn't want to go. And so he already threw $40,000 cash on the table in front of me. He goes, that's yours. All right. And I'm like, look, dude, I tell you what, I said, you do the first one. I said, I'll come in for the follow-on evolutions. I just got to go home, see my girl and kind of, I wasn't ready for this shit, And he goes, no, if I can't have you for the first one, I don't need you for the other ones. And so I'm like, damn, okay. And I said, all right, okay, I'm in, right? So I fly home. I said, I got to go to Indonesia first, though. So I literally, the next morning, I fly to Indonesia. I see my wife, my girl. I lied to her. I said, look, I'm going to go to the Middle East. I'm doing some consulting, security consulting work, make a little bit of money, be right back. No danger, no problem, be right back. Oh, okay. So they tell me don't bring any equipment. You don't need it. It's already provided for you, right? Oh, okay. So I fly from Jakarta all the way to New York, LaGuardia. I check into a hotel as I'm supposed to. I'm waiting around downstairs in the lounge area, restaurant area, having a beer, and I notice there's a bunch of French dudes walking around. They all look pretty fit, but they're French. And so I get a little suspicious. And then I had to be up in a hotel room around 10:30 that night. We all had to meet there. Okay, we all were given instructions at this time, meet in this room. So I show up in there, and there's all these French dudes are standing there. There's 11 of us total. AG, his partner, Asil, me, and then the other, they're French Foreign Legionnaires is what they are. And so we're all standing there looking at each other like who's who, like the movie Ronin. And then AG's like, all right, guys, here's the mission, here's the plan. He goes, this is what we're going to go do. He goes, if you're not interested, he goes, you can keep the $20,000 I gave you and just leave right now and no questions asked. Go back home. Like, fuck, man. So everybody got 20 grand except for me. I had 40 grand. But I had to tell nobody. Well, there was a reason I got 40 grand, and I was about to find that out in a second. So nobody quit. He goes, okay, good. He goes, welcome aboard. He goes, so, and then he points at me, and he tells everybody in the room, he goes, that guy's in charge of everything. He's the boss. Whatever he says goes. You do what he tells you to do. Everything. I'm like, what? Me? So, I don't even know what the hell's going on here right now. And I'm in charge, right? All of a sudden of everything, and literally everything. And, all right. So the next day, we have to meet downstairs in the evening. We get on a bus, a bunch of vans, and we go to Teterboro. It's a private airport up there. And he tells us to make sure we're wearing all our tactical gear, our uniforms. That's kind of weird. It's a business fucking airport. Everybody's wearing suits, and we show up wearing camouflage and beards and shit, right? But he had a reason for it. Okay, he had a reason for it. And the reason was he knew people were watching us. People very high up were watching us. Okay. And so he didn't want to hide anything. He didn't want to give the illusion that we're not up to something. He wanted to make it really clear that, yeah, we're doing this, and I'm not going to hide it. So we show up at the airport that night. A G5 shows up. We load it with food and water, our gear, no weapons. And we take off and we fly. I think we did our first fuel stop in Hungary. And then we continued on. And so the pilots and the flight attendants, they had no idea where we're going, right? They got their initial grid coordinates. And then in flight from Hungary, we gave them a change the flight plan on. Said, okay, this is your coordinates. This is where you put an airplane down, which was in the desert on a dirt airstrip, complete remote, not even on a map. We're like, right here's an airstrip on this grid coordinate. Just put your airplane there. And I'm like, what? He said, just do it. And yes, sir. Be back. They didn't even question it, man. So they're like, whatever you guys want, man. We're doing it. So we ended up landing in the middle of an airfield. There was, if you want to call it, it's just a strip, just a dirt strip. Right. There was nothing there, nothing, except one C-130 sitting there with the ramp down engines running. That was the only thing that was sitting there. So we landed at G5. We unload our shit. We walk over to the ramp. There's a colonel waiting for us as an intel officer.
And the Emirati military?
Yeah, Emirati, right? So he's checking the block as we're getting on. We're loading all our shit in the back, and then we take off. And we fly about another 4 hours to Djibouti. We land, get off, and there's a CH-47 and two H-6 helicopters sitting there, engines running, waiting for us. So we transload into those things, take off, fly about another hour. We end up in Aden, Yemen, at one of their FOBs out there. And so we, at this point, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, 2 a.m. And I asked the intel officer, I go, hey, where's all our gear, all the weapons, all the shit that's supposed to be waiting for us? He goes, oh, it's on the way. And so they had set up a couple of GP mediums in a cantonment area within the fob. Nobody knew we was there. They intentionally tried to make sure we were hidden, you know. And so he said, "I'll be here shortly," right? So this shows up, all these pickup trucks full of garbage, literally fucking garbage, you know, like pieces and parts of weapon systems. Just shit, man. I mean, like, what the hell? And so they're unloading all this crap, you know. And we got DSHKs with no tripods. We've got no magazines for the AK-47s. We got no links for the PKMs, you know. And oh, by the way, we're supposed to be getting all U.S. built equipment, brand new, and they're giving us this 30-year-old Chicom rusty bullshit, right? and I'm inventorying it, and I'm looking at it, and I realize ain't nothing we can do with this. Nothing functional. Nothing's operational. So I walk up to him, to the colonel. I go, "Hey, sir," I said, "this ain't gonna work." I said, "We're missing everything, right? We're missing all the pieces and parts." And he hated the fact that we were coming in to fight his war. Mm-hmm. He hated the fact that they didn't have the capability, right? He despised us. And I said, "Sir," I said, "well, this is not gonna get it." And he looks at me with his hands on his hips. He goes, "So what you're telling me is you can't do the mission?" I'm like, "No, I didn't say I couldn't do the mission. I kill the guys with a damn spoon, but I can do the mission. I would really like to have some weapons, though, you know, where I can shoot from a distance, you know." And so I gave him a little, you know, piece of my mind. I confronted him, and he's like, okay. I said, "By the way, where's all my American weapons at that we're supposed to get?" Right? I know what he did. He took that money and put it in his freaking pocket.
Right.
Yeah, that's what he did, right, little son of a bitch. And he went down to the local bazaar and bought us all this crap, right? And so, anyways, I kind of gave him the stink eye. He got the message. He came, and I gave him the shortage list. He came back with the pieces and parts we were missing. Basically, we were just cobbling weapons together and, you know, improvising everything. There were no uniforms, nothing, man. So I'm literally got, you know, a pair of 511s on, some desert boots. I had on a tank top for the gym. I actually had weight training gloves. Those are my tactical gloves, you know. We were making it up as we go, man. We're literally like making our own freaking, you know, vests and stuff for ammo and stuff, you know, knitting and shit, you know. It's like, are you kidding me? So we literally improvised everything we had to go do these operations because we got no tactical gear. They didn't give it to us. And I think it was because he wanted us to fail is what it was.
Right.
But we weren't having that. So the next question was, okay, go ahead.
How old were you at this point, Dale?
So this was 2015, 2016. So you basically, 6 years ago? I'm 59, so I was about 53.
Yeah. Yes. It's nice. It's nice to know though that a tiger doesn't change its stripes, Dale. I find that comforting about you.
No, man. Actually, I was leading the charge, man. I was in good shape as anybody there or better. You know, and there was a reason I was in charge because I learned that lesson later on too. It's like, okay, now I know why I'm here. But so, anyways, we got the target list. It was long, over 40 people on the list, spread across 3 countries. So we were going to be doing some globe trotting to go take these guys out, but they were all HVTs. It was not a capture mission; it was a kill mission. That was it. These guys had to go. They're all bad guys. They're all terrorists. They're all associated or affiliated with Al Qaeda, particularly Al Qaeda Arabic Peninsula, ACAP, the Muslim Brotherhood, ISIS, Houthis. There were a lot of bad guys there. And,
which 3 countries?
I can't say the other 2 countries. Let's just say they were on the African continent.
So because you're saying like AQ Arab Peninsula, did the UAE, which is a fairly, I mean, in terms of Arabic countries, it's like a fairly liberal country. And I don't mean liberal politically. I just mean liberal in terms of like religion and whatnot. Yes. Do they have a different HVT set than, say, the United States does, and that their concerns, even though these people are AQ or ISIS, but their concerns are different because these high-value targets, the HVTs, are operating directly against, like, the Emirates and places like that?
Yeah, so exactly. They got their own, their target list may be different from our target list, some of them, not all of them. And they had their own agenda. In fact, the reason we got hired by the MOD, because he's the guy that hired us, was actually a Palestinian. and very prominent guy, not even Emirati, but because of a friend of a friend of a friend, he got put into the MOD position. And so there's actually a very interesting story about this guy. His name is Mohammed Dalan. You can look him up on the internet. Very interesting guy. Very cool guy, actually, but very interesting. And he was not what you would expect. So anyways, the target list was long, spread over 3 countries. We needed to get this one. They wanted this one guy in particular right off the bat. He's target number 1. And we're like, okay, what's the deal with this guy? And, and they explained to us, why he's a threat. Okay, he's a shady character. He was actually from India. He was not Arabic. He was India, but he was Muslim, and he was a pedophile. And he's homosexual. He had all kinds of weird shit going on too, but he was very well trained in trade craft and street craft. So he never put his head down in the same place twice. He had his own security detail. He was being financed, as I understand it, by the Muslim Brotherhood and others. He was using Al-Qaeda as an action arm. Just a lot of weird things going on, right? So supposedly this guy won the Nobel Prize, blah, blah, blah. It's all bullshit. Okay, because one of the things I made sure of that I insisted on was any targets that we take out, I gotta be convinced this guy's a bad guy, and it's just not some little personal agenda, right?
Right.
This guy's got to be a legit target. So we did our due diligence, and we investigated closely. It's like, okay, he's the real deal. So we green-lighted him. But what was interesting was as we're going through this target list, we're developing the first target. Took us a couple of weeks, which actually was pretty fast, considering we had no human sources. We had nothing to work with. I mean, we're gleaning information off the internet. We're bribing the Emiratis to give us some intel. They were trying to, what's the word I'm looking for? They were trying to remain hands off. They wanted to have plausible deniability.
Compartmentalize.
Right.
Yeah, right. And so we're like, hey, dude, we're never going to get this done if you're not helping us, So they ended up getting us some sources. We ended up paying them a bunch of money, made a bunch of promises and stuff like that. But in this process, we realized on this list was a guy who was the mastermind behind the USS Cole bombing. And he was running a madrasa in Aden. And he was running a pipeline for ISIS fighters. This guy was a shithead still, and he was there. And we're like, this is number 1. We're going after that guy first, and he's right down the road. And he's really got no security. His house is across the corner, catty corner to his madrasa, where he's running this pipeline, for ISIS fighters and stuff. And so we really wanted that guy. Okay, he's the USS Cole bomb, mastermind. We were told no. Said no, you work for us. This is number 1 right here. This guy here, you guys can have him later on. Like, fuck, man. We really wanted this guy. He would have been an easy target too, but we didn't get the shot at him that we wanted. So long story short, my job was, besides, the planning, execution, I realized really quickly that the guys that were with me didn't know what the hell they were doing. So they had no idea about explosives. They didn't know how to use explosives. In fact, I had to show one of the guys was a SEAL, literally how to put an AK-47 into action. He had no idea how to load it and charge it. It's like, fuck, dude. And so this was a SEAL too. But he was a good guy. I'm not going to take nothing from him. He just didn't know what he was doing. But He turned out to be actually one of the better guys out of the bunch because his head was in the right place. The other SEAL was a total turd, though, complete turd. So now I'm training these guys on how to basically set headspace and timing on a 50 caliber machine gun, run PKM machine guns, all the weapon systems we have. And then the mission came down. It's like, we might have to hit this guy on the way to the airport. There's only 1 flight a day leaving Aden. And we had intel that this guy might try to get on that airplane on one of these particular days. And so what we were going to do is ambush him at the airport. Now, what was interesting is the Emirati military occupied the airport, but all the access roads, all the gates going into the airport were manned by Al-Qaeda. Mm-hmm. Right? So they controlled the gates. Right. And so we would literally have to drive to the gates, wave at Mr. Al-Qaeda, and then go inside into the compound. But they had 1 flight a day, and we thought this guy's going to get on one of these flights. So we just started planning, okay, we got to hit them. We picked out the checkpoint location where we're gonna smack them. They thought, well, what if he doesn't come this way? What if he goes that way? And then we thought, okay, let's ambush him in the vehicle. He's running a small motorcade, thin skin trucks. Then the question was, who can ride a motorcycle? I'll be damned, I'm the only guy that can ride a motorcycle. I said, are you kidding me? I'm the only guy that can ride a goddamn motorcycle? so now I'm doing it all, man. I'm like, why are you guys even here? I said, I might as well just do everything, I got to ride the motorcycle. I got to build the IEDs. I got AG on the back of the motorcycle. He's going to hang my IED off the mirror of this truck while we're driving and then vaporize the vehicle with the guy in it, right? So we got all these contingency plans, and I'm starting to realize really quickly that I'm the only guy who knows what the hell is going on. I'm the only guy who's got any tactical experience to execute this thing, and going back to Discovery Channel, I guess I am a one-man army. So anyways, so we had all these contingency plans, man, and there's, we were going to do all kinds of stuff, man. It kept changing every day because the guy never slept in the same place twice. So we had to keep adjusting the mission profile, right? Okay, now we're instead of doing motorcycles, we're doing helicopters. Okay, we're not doing helicopters, now we're walking, And so finally we finally got some good intel one night, and we had about an hour and a half to spin up because the guy was staying downtown in an office, and he wasn't going to come out. We had eyes on him, watching the guy reporting back to us. We had a drone helicopter up, video on the office. We know he was in there. He went in there with his bodyguards and his assistant, and he hadn't come out. So we were staged, already ready to go, and that's when we went in. And it was actually 5 of us that went in out of the team. And out of the 5 of us, one of them was an Arab. He's one of their majors in the military, and he was just the driver. It's like, look, you just drive. You don't touch the guns. Don't play with the fucking radio. Just drive. That's all you got to do, right? And so, and me and the AG and the 2 SEALs were in the back of this up armored Land Cruiser, and the job was to literally pull up to the office. I was going to get out, put an IED on the building, and bring it down on top of this guy's head. And so that was the basic plan. And so we roll in. I think it was about 9:30 at night, very dark, very dark. You had people on the streets drinking chai. Very narrow roads, very congested. And so we go rolling in at about 3 miles an hour. That was top speed. I literally got, as the car comes to a stop, I've got Al-Qaeda looking in the window, trying to see who's inside the window. And I'm putting a muzzle in his face, getting ready to let the air out of him. And so finally we get in front of the office, and it's like, go. Doors come open. The first guy shot is the driver, the only guy without a weapon. He gets shot in the fucking leg. And then the rest of us bail out. I grab my charge, and I run across the street, run in front of the office door, and I tried to open the door first. I was going to try to open the door, throw a couple of hand grenades in there, and then just go in there and shoot everybody. But they had locked the door from the inside because the bodyguards, usually they sat out in front, but at night they would roll inside, they would lock the doors up, and they would sit right behind the doors. These big steel doors. So I couldn't get the door open. So I knew they were in there. They locked it. And so I thought, okay, the only other choice I have now is to place this IED that I built in front of the door. So the charge was, I filled an ammo can with C4, and I filled it up with armor plating from an MRAP. So I basically made it the mother of all claymores. And, added some extra on there for the P factor. So I had a little nuclear weapon is what I had. And it was all directional. So I placed the charge. There's a raging gunfight going on right now. And I'm by myself. So for whatever reason, I don't know why, but AG ran up the fucking road like with his hair on fire, and he's shooting it out with people up the street. And he's actually supposed to be with me at the door, pulling security for me because I got my hands full. And same thing with the other guy, the other SEAL. He doesn't follow me to the door either. He stays at the vehicle. His excuse was his weapon kept malfunctioning, but he had a spare right next to him. He didn't grab that one, so he didn't follow me over. So I'm basically out there by myself in the wind flapping, And anyways, I placed the charge. I could not run back to my exfil vehicle because, the engagement was just too close down. I would have run right into an ambush. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to run up the street to another vehicle waiting down the road. And but the vehicle that we infilled in was an up-armored Land Cruiser, a $300,000 car. And so I had already placed an IED in the back of it, an incendiary device. I built it, put it back there, and what I was going to do is run it back to my original vehicle. I was going to stop, pull the firing system, and we were going to destroy that Land Cruiser. I don't know why they wanted to destroy it, but they didn't want to bring it off the target. Our instructions were leave it there and destroy it. So that's what they want. That's what they get. That's what they're paying for. So anyways, I could not get to the charge. So the other SEAL, he knew that contingency plan was if I don't make it back, he was to run up and fire the system. And he did. And it's all on video. And the first charge goes off and just wrecks the building. Apparently vaporizes the bodyguards behind the doors. And then he pulls the other system, and then it goes off, and it literally blew that car up and literally burned it to the ground. I mean, there was nothing left of it. I was actually in awe that it actually worked as well as it did, because it was literally improvised explosive. I never built one like this before. Didn't know. I just kind of made it up as I went, which was kind of cool. I used right for this. I used Nescafe coffee grounds in a jar, half a liter, half a bottle of gasoline, and a quarter block of C4. I cobbled this freaking thing together, put it over the gas tank, and I'll be damned, it worked, man. Freaking burned that thing to a crispy critter. So we get out of the mission, and then and so all of us were given rank. So the question is, okay, you know, for everybody out there listening, oh my God, being a mercenary is illegal. You know, I've heard all the bullshit. All right, just shut up. All right, let me just explain what happened here. All right, first of all, it is not illegal to work as a mercenary. Okay, you can go to the State Department website. You as an American citizen can work for foreign countries, okay, a foreign government, as long as that government, their policies are in alignment with U.S. policy. Okay, the Emiratis are friends of Americans. Okay, we're fighting the same global war on terrorism. Boom. All right, there it is. 2, you can join their military, and guess what? They assigned us ranks. They gave us all rank. Guess who the rankingest guy there was AG, made him a full bird colonel. He's in charge of the entire Arab forward operating base. He's in charge of the Arabs. And guess what? He's Jewish. Yeah, guy's Jewish. He's a Jewish colonel in their military giving them orders. So we get back to the compound, and plugging holes and stuff, and AG comes back a few minutes later. He's got a thumb drive. He went to the drone pilot. He goes, "I'm the colonel. Give me a copy of that drone footage." And he got it. And the reason he got it is for insurance. So it can never be said that we're out there as a bunch of renegades on our own,
right?
You know, doing this kind of shit. We got proof right here, Fricker. It came out of your helicopter. You know, here's the footage, right? So it was a smart move, man. Like I said, it was insurance. So then what happens is basically, okay, we're not sure if we got the target or not, because the next day on the news, the local news, his assistant was all wrapped up, you know, and he's on the news going, "Hi, na boo boo, you didn't get us," you know, but he's all fucked up, and the other guys are vaporized, and so we don't know what happened to the principal. And we were told he did get away, and he went back to Saudi Arabia, which I kind of doubt that, because the Saudis wanted him dead too. So why would you come back to Saudi Arabia, right? So he basically dropped off the map. We're not sure what happened. Maybe he went into hiding. You know, maybe I scared the shit out of him, you know, and he decided he wants no more part of it. I don't know. But so we go back to we end up in Abu Dhabi. We meet with the client, and basically we're doing an AAR after action report. This is what happened, blah blah blah, and he was happy. And so the contract, if I remember right, the contract was worth $880 million. Okay, the first mission was $800,000. Okay, the first mission was a vetting mission. If we were successful, we would get the rest of the contract. And that's why it was important that I was on the first mission.
Right.
Because it had to go. Right. I tell you right now, had I not been there, they would have fucked up the charges. They didn't know how to build them. They wouldn't have been effective at all. They wouldn't have known how to use half the weapon systems. You know, they would have had to go to the Improvised, go, "Hey, can you show us how to, you know, work this gun?" You know, that's what I'm paying you for. So none of that was going to work. So that's why I realized, okay, there's my value.
Right.
That's why they had to have me. Right. So, you know, we got, you know, awarded the rest of the contract, and then we had, you know, the follow-on follow on missions after that. So, anyways, that happened, and then finally I ended up walking out of the desert. Me and one of the SEALs had enough because the one SEAL that's in charge, I'm not even going to mention his name. He was all fucked up, and AG had to go do something. I said, no, I ain't staying out here. This is bullshit. There was a lot of leadership issues that there were very pronounced, man, that really wrecked the whole project. Poor leadership, zero leadership. And I'll give an example. One day, so I'm getting paid all this money as a special advisor. And I noticed that one of the SEALs, the bosses, is laying in the back of a pickup truck sunbathing with no clothes on every day. And he's telling the guys to fetch his coffee and do this and do that, And these are all grown men, right, with families. They're soldiers, they're veterans. And he's telling them to go fetch coffee. And then I realized he's actually he's hiding cases of Red Bull in his hooch, fruit, all kinds of fresh stuff. He's hoarding it for himself, not even sharing it with the team.
Right.
I found out about that one day because I had to go in there to get something. I'm like, what the fuck? So I walked up to the truck one day while he's back there, and I go, hey, man, I said, you guys are paying me a lot of money to be your special advisor, so I'm going to go ahead and earn my money right now and give you some advice. And they're looking at me like, huh? I go, ready for this? Lead by example. And they're like, and I go, yeah, lead by example. I said, you think this is lead by example? I said, this ain't leading shit. I said, all that Red Bull in your room, that's not leading by example. I said, these guys here, I said, they could give two shits about your bottom line. When we're out there in a firefight in the street, I said, nobody cares about your bottom line, your corporation. All they care about is getting back home. And they're going to remember who took care of them and who didn't. I said, and right now, making them fetch coffee while you're sunbathing and they're working their ass off, ain't holding no water. And you know what? He disagreed with me. He's like, I got to disagree. It is a business. You freaking moron. I said, you know what? When we get out there, I said, when the shit hits the fan and they got to make a decision, either save me or save you, bye-bye you, because they're not saving your ass. I'm the guy taking care of them. I'm the guy running interference from constantly, and that's my job. I said, but you're paying the paycheck, man. I said, you need to do your part, So there was stuff like that was going on out there that I said, I'm not gonna be a part of this anymore. And I actually left, ended up planes, trains, and automobiles through Dubai, Abu Dhabi. I think I went back to the U.S. Then finally went back to Indonesia, then the U.S. I can't remember. I was all over the daggone place, but I just decided that I'm done with that part of it.
Dale, how many of that list of 40 names? Like, how many HVTs down did you get during that contract?
Just a couple. What's kind of funny is we had one guy that was an ISIS bomb maker, very prominent guy, and he was definitely going to get it, man. But we had it all lined up. I built this mega IED for him, special, and he was going out every day. And after we were watching with the drone, in the afternoon he would go out on the street, and he had a couch on the street, right? And he would sit there and sell drugs, crack. Right, guys would come by, and he was a drug dealer too, on top of everything else. And then on the end of his compound, he had a garage called the Monster Garage, and he was building metal doors, but actually he was building IEDs in there. He had all kinds of shit, sealant tanks and stuff like that. And so my job was going to be to blow up this entire monster shop one night, and then we're going to go up to his compound and shoot him in his freaking face. Just as we were getting ready to do this, he went out to sell some drugs on the street. Guy drives by, and he was with the Yemenis resistance, and boom, kills him right there, man. Does a job for us. Like, shit, But it's probably a good thing because it would have been really hard to get in and get back out of there. They had that place locked down pretty good between ISIS and Al-Qaeda and the Houthis. He was pretty secure, and we were definitely going to be, hanging out there trying to get to him. But we made down a list a little bit and not very far. And before I walked away, I don't know what they did after that. I actually know that one of the guys, they ended up in Serbia, and one of the guys on the team got rolled up, ended up in jail for almost 2 years on weapons charges. They were, kind of doing the same thing again as we're doing in Yemen. I didn't have any part of that. Walked away, but he got out of jail because somebody murdered his attorney at the doorstep of the courtyard. So they lost everything. The entire case against him. And he's actually a pretty famous SEAL. I don't know. I'm not gonna say his name, but he's a pretty famous SEAL. But he fucked up, and he got rolled up, and he spent a couple of years in Serbia jail because of that. So, anyways, yeah, going back to round and round and round, everything starts happening. I ended up from there in Los Angeles, running so I was protecting a multi-millionaire as a starlet in Hollywood. So what happened was I was out on the TV show SWAT, right? And so I was invited to be on that show. So I'm out there on the set. I get a call from my friend, who's, he's a pretty good guy, man. He's a country western singer. He's like, hey, dude, he goes, I got a problem. He goes, I got a friend. She's in big trouble. Some guy stole over $1 million worth of diamonds from her. They want to kill her because she wants to go to the police, this, that. She's very wealthy. She's 31 years old, beautiful, never been married, no kids. She's every man's dream, dude. I'm telling you right now, right? So, and I don't even know this. I don't know all this about her yet. I just know she's in trouble, and I'm the only guy he'll recommend. And so apparently she already done the Google search and all this shit. He goes, call her and work out the price. So I call her up, go, hey, this is me. What's going on? What do you need? Okay, here's my price. And my price was $2,000 a day plus pass-through costs. I said, you want me to protect you? $2,000 plus pay for all my expenses. She didn't bat an eye. Like, really? And so I almost kind of said that because I really didn't want to do the job.
Right.
Because I know bodyguard work sucks.
Right.
So I figured if I'm going to do it, it better be worth it, right? So I said $2,000, and then she's like, okay, no problem. And I was like, really? I said, well, I'm on a Hollywood set, so I didn't bring any suits or clothes for this either, not really prepared for this. She goes, don't worry, you don't need any clothes. Oh, okay. Little did I know, she actually meant I didn't need any clothes. I just needed to show up butt naked. She was good with that, right? So she apparently she'd done all the Google search, watched all my movies 10 times over, I didn't know any of this, right? I'm like, okay, all right. And then she asked me what my clothes size were, shoe size. I gave it to her. I ended up flying to L.A., and so I had somebody else with me. I had a female with me that I had met, a young girl. And I go, hey, by the way, I got a friend with me. I said, can I bring her with me? And she's like, oh, yeah, of course, bring her with you. I go, really? I said, okay, cool. I can use it for like counter surveillance type stuff, right? you can't make this shit up. So I show up, and at the airport, she's got a limousine waiting for us. We go to her where she lived, very upscale. The apartments in this particular building she was living in, the low end was $15,000 a month. The high end was $70,000 a month. It was all the rich and famous people living there, right? So we show up. She's waiting for me, all giddy and everything. And then so, we get settled in. I got my own apartment. She gives me an apartment for $15,000 a month, fully stocked with everything. Not only that, she bought all my clothes for me. I didn't know that. All my Under Armour, everything's laid out for me, slippers and hiking shoes and sweats and T-shirts. I'm like, damn, man, and so I said, okay. So I told the gal I was with, I said, listen, I'm going to be really busy for a while. I said, so, she was not from the United States. And I said, look, since you're here, enjoy the vacation. Go hang out in Hollywood. Just see the sights. Don't mind me. I'm doing my thing. And so she was good. And so I end up, telling the clients to listen, all right, I'm here to protect you. I'm going to go over some security stuff, protocols, do's and don'ts, patterns of life, blah, 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 blah. We're even do some defensive tactics, And so it goes pretty good, right? And little do I know, she's like falling in love with me. I didn't know that. And so it started getting really weird. Like, we would go out for dinner every night, and she would spend $1,500 every night on dinner. She ordered everything on the menu times 10. She's like, whatever you want, times 10. I'm like, what? And then I'm like, no, I'm gonna go stand over here by the door and pull security. She goes, oh no, you're not. She goes, you're gonna sit right here next to me. I said, yes, ma'am. You're paying the bills. All right. So it turned into that, and then it turned into like her sitting on my lap. It got really unprofessional after a while, and I'm trying to keep my professional distance, but she's making it really, 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 really hard, man. And so then I meet all her friends that live in this building. They're all billionaires, They're just hardcore liberals, right? So every day, she never worked. She owned a company. Now and then we would drive to the company, and she'd check on things, okay, and then we go back to where she stayed. But everybody would hang out on the bottom floor. It had the swimming pool, the bar, and it's the lounge area. And that's where we hung out every day, all day long for months. And she would order tons of food and pizza and this and that, and all those guests, the residents would come down, and we'd all be talking. And no, they would be talking. I couldn't stand these assholes, right? It was always a Trump bashing session, right? It was always a Trump bashing session. I'm like, get the hell out of here. And then they're like, you mean you were in the Army? You were a veteran? Yeah, that's what they look like? Wow. It's like I'm like a puppy. Like, what? That's what veterans look like? Because I never met one before, right? And then they want to ask me some questions about the military, and I'd start to answer them, and then it just cut me off. And then they start talking about, there's only 4 things they could talk about: wine, hotels, food, and other women's dress, how they dress. That was it. That was the 4 topics. That's all these people can talk about because that's all they know.
Well,
right?
Dale, if any of your attractive billionaire female friends are interested in a veteran male concubine, you feel free to pass them my digits. I mean, I'm here and I'm ready to work.
Well, and he lives in Brooklyn and he went to Columbia, so he can fit into that sort of liberal.
Well,
I got a foot in both worlds, man. I can do it.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, man, it was really frustrating because they couldn't talk about anything else because they didn't know anything else. I was literally like the first veteran they ever met. I might as well have been a puppy, like, oh wow, isn't it cute little? That's what they look like,
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck, man? So and I was like, what the fuck, man? So and I would tell my client, I was like, look, she would ask me a question in front of everybody, and I said, look, I don't talk politics. I'm not talking religion. Oh, no, it's okay. It's okay. And I remember they asked me this question one time about homosexuals in the military. And I had an experience back in 82nd when I first went in 1982 with a gay guy that was literally, everybody got drunk one night. He went into this one dude's room and gave him a blowjob while he was sleeping. The guy wakes up, loses his shit, and we ended up with a big battalion, hand-to-hand combat session. Everybody was fighting because we were the recon guys, and they were, now we're the gay recon guys. And, it just got really crazy, right? And so I'm starting to explain to her what the problem was, with homosexuals, especially in a rank of infantry guys, when something like this happens. And I told her how we were literally combat ineffective for over a month. And people would get in Article 15, all because of one guy. He literally pulls this guy's underwear down while he's sleeping, he's drunk, and he wakes up and he's getting a blowjob from this guy. And so they were like, oh, everybody was sitting there going, oh my God, that's so uncomfortable. I gotta go. I go, yeah, you gotta go because you don't want to hear the damn truth, It was always that kind of stuff, and these people just started making me sick. And then I kept asking my client, I go, listen, how much longer do you need me for? Because, we was tracking down the jewelry. There was some gangs out of Chicago that were involved in this. It's going to be, when I write the story, it's pretty interesting who the characters were. Some of them were very famous, like damn. One of them was a billionaire, a British guy from London who's a billionaire. He sat on a bunch of boards. He was actually banging this hooker, this black chick, a high-end call girl. She ended up working her way into this building, passing the background checks, and ended up stealing all my clients' jewelry based on a lie, which was tied to this billionaire. Basically, I go from being a bodyguard to the fixer now, to the investigator. So I'm now sitting, I'm calling this guy up, go, hey, I need you to meet me at Starbucks tomorrow morning at 07, Crosstown, LA. He meets me, and I'm waiting for the guy, and I'm playing, Mutt Jeff with him. And I'm like, hey, listen, my client's really, really angry. We know that, your girlfriend, no, I go, yeah, you were banging her, so it doesn't matter. She's your girlfriend. She used your name, stole all his jewelry, and my client's getting mad because she can't get it back. The police won't help her, so she's going to go to LA Times and tell the story, which is going to include your name, right? And you're sitting on this big-ass board, right? Because I already know this from talking to some other very wealthy people. I said, this ain't going to go well for you, And he was really uncomfortable. I said, now, if I was you, what I would do is I would probably just give her the money and sign a non-disclosure agreement and be done with this bullshit because you're married and you got 2 kids in England. And I had him really freaking squirming in his seat, And so He agreed. He's like, no, you know what? You're right. Let me talk to my lawyer. I go, no, that's the smart thing to do, sir. So he leaves. By the time I got back to my client's apartment, he already talked to his lawyer, who talked to her lawyer. Basically, they painted this picture that I was a thug, right? You say you're thugs over, blah, 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 blah. And I go, good. That's exactly what I wanted to think. I'm a thug, right? so it actually worked, right? And so they wanted to settle for $250,000. And I knew she was not going to go for that. And she's like, no, but hell no. I said, you probably ought to take the 250 because you're not going to get the million. I said, this guy's going to jump on the next thing smoking. He's going to be gone. You're not going to get him. The billionaire. He didn't even steal it, but I said, you lost all your ability to leverage all this shit, you know? And she was stubborn, right? So she was worth millions and millions and millions of dollars, but this jewelry she had on, she was wearing it for a jeweler, basically advertising.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So anytime the jewelry leaves the jewelry store, it's no longer insured off the property. So it was stolen off the property. So guess who's liable?
Right.
My client. She's got to shit $1 million for diamonds.
Right.
And so that was the problem. She didn't want to, you know, and then there's all this other stuff was involved with the trust fund and her family and how that's going to vote and this and that, you know. And so, so finally, you know, we get through most of all of this, right? I realized nothing's going to happen. There was more. It had to do with Floyd Mayweather, had to do with Las Vegas fights, and all kinds of crazy stuff happened there. This girl shows up in Las Vegas wearing all the diamonds. On top of that, I've got the FBI engaged, the CIA. I got everybody, the marshals from California to Chicago to Las Vegas engaged to run this chick down, man. And she was really cagey, man, really good and beating the system, man. All the traps that I laid for her, she circumvented them, got away from it all. But finally, I just told the client, I said, listen, man, how much longer you need me for, you know? And she goes, I need you forever. I go, no, really, how long you need me for? She said, no, I need you forever. And I realized, shit. So, you know, this is happening, man. And they got really bizarro, you know. Hey, I need you up in my room at 2 o'clock in the morning. I need to talk to you about something. Yes, ma'am, on the way. Where you at? I'm right here in the bed, no clothes on. I need you to sit right here. I got to talk to you about something. I'm like, oh, God, no. You know, this is not, you know, I'm thinking I'm not going to get paid if I keep doing this, you know. And finally, one day I just said, listen, I got to go. I said, I got to move on. I said, she wanted to get married. She fell in love with me. I'll be honest with you, any other guy, you know, would have been a millionaire overnight. And she was really attractive, beautiful, man, very smart, very personable. She had everything going for her, everything, man. And I guess with maturity and with age, you know, you get a little bit smarter and you start thinking with this head and not the other head. And I realized that, you know, I got other things I want to do with my life. And I don't want to mooch off of anybody else. I don't want her money. I don't want to be around her friends. I told her, I said, in 3 months, we'll kill each other. I said, that's just how it is. I said, it's all cool now, but 3 months, I said, you won't stand me. I won't stand you because you're friends. I said, so I'm going to leave tomorrow morning. And so in the morning, I show up to her apartment and say goodbye. She got the limo waiting for me. And she begs me one more time. She goes, please go with me to, she wanted me to go to, God damn it, it's a resort out in the desert. She goes, go with me, stay with me for the day and for the night. Tomorrow I'll put you on a private jet and fly home and, you know, end the story. And I'm like, for what? I said, we're going to go there and we're going to do it like rabbits. And I said, tomorrow morning I'm still getting on an airplane. I said, nothing's going to change, you know. Right. And I did. I walked away right there and I never looked back. And I have no regrets, you know, whatsoever. But I got to tell you, any other guy would have jumped all over it. And maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I'd have jumped all over it too. Different circumstances. But, you know, sometimes you realize what's more important in life. And it's not always money. It's not other people's money. It's not even a beautiful woman. Sometimes, you know, your own sovereignty, man, your own, you know, you that is all that matters. Your happiness, you know, and how you achieve that is up to you.
Dale, I think what you're telling us is you will never take the easy way, regardless of, like, you know,
I could have, and I didn't. I could have, and I didn't, man. Oh, yeah. And she, you know what she gave me? So she's like, look, she goes, I need you here for another 30 days. Here's my BMW 750 Li. She gives me a brand new BMW 750 Li. And she turns around and buys a black one. She gives me the white one. She knows I like them, you know?
Yeah.
She goes, is this yours? And I'm like, oh, my God, man. So she just gives me this brand new BMW 750 Li. She's throwing it all at me. $1,500 dinner every night, $15,000, apartment. It was amazing. I'll say this: she was a good girl. She just got caught up in something. You know, she's lived her whole life a life of, the rich and famous.
Right.
So she hasn't been exposed to street thugs. She hasn't been exposed to this kind of crime. And suddenly she became victimized by it. And then all of a sudden she meets a guy like me, that comes along that, I'm this. And she's used to, the skinny guy jeans, skinny jean guy, and these, beta males. And all of a sudden I come along.
Right.
And I'm actually not even interested other than doing my job. And that probably drove her even crazier, And so, so that's how this whole thing started, just spinning out of control. So the bodyguard, that was probably the only bodyguard work I actually enjoyed. I had a lot of fringe benefits, obviously. And it wasn't really it was real and it was serious. I mean, I was packing. I brought armor. I had talked to people in the intel services. They all agreed. They said, listen, whatever that guy says, believe it. He will do it.
Yeah.
This guy is no joke. He's a felon many times over. He was a gang leader. He got out and became a life coach, which was kind of funny, right? Because I'm actually a life coach. Now he's calling himself a life coach, but he's actually a thug.
Yeah.
He pretended to be a life coach, right?
Yeah. Well,
and he's dangerous. He was really dangerous.
I mean, that's something that isn't really being reported on a lot in the news, but that's a massive problem in LA right now, is that wealthy people are they're being targeted coming out of stores. It's a serious problem in LA right now that's not really being reported on.
Yeah, no. And you know what? I was living it with her. It was just, for her, it was just, driving her crazy, man. She didn't know how to deal with any of this stuff, and she's looking at me like, help.
Yeah.
I'm like, shit, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I can't even find these guys, but the bodyguard work, that's another story. It's coming out in my book, more detail. And I have to protect the innocent. Of course, I'm not going to mention her name or locations and things like that, but I'll tell the story. It's going to be pretty cool. I get a lot of guys that contact me that are interested in doing bodyguard work, and they want to know what it's like to get into that role, how to get into that role. And it looks sexy, the movie The Bodyguard with Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston. I did it, but 10x. But that's Hollywood, man, and that's not the real world. The real world, it sucks.
Yeah,
people are dicks.
Yeah, especially when you're coming from a special operations background, you're looked down upon. Your judgment isn't trusted. You have to pretend your clients are funny when they're not. They're smart when they're dumb.
I've talked to guys who've done EP jobs for Gulf State, millionaires' kids, billionaires' kids, horror stories.
I've done that too. And my advice is never seek to be a bodyguard. Seek to be a person who needs bodyguards. Being a bodyguard is like being being a bathroom attendant. Basically,
So I'll tell you a quick story. This happened to me in Paris. So I'm with this woman, right? Her and her husband. She's the Mexican chick. She's got this. I mean, she's just very eccentric, man. She had a pink. Pepto-Bismol pink Phantom Rolls Royce, right? This thing was insane. 100-carat diamond rings coming out of fucking, the hood ornament and shit, like, damn. But we were in Paris, and she wanted to go shopping. So all her friends were gay guys, right? I never saw her around any women. I don't know, maybe the gay guys didn't threaten her, but anyway, so always shopping, and they're eating lunch and they're doing this, and I'm standing at the bar going, Jesus Christ, can we leave now? And so I remember one day we're on the street corner, and I called for the limousine, and she's facing the street, on the sidewalk facing the street. I'm standing behind her about 10 feet, facing her, watching her back, looking for the vehicles coming, and I've kind of just got a tactical position there. And I noticed this guy's walking past me. He looked like he was maybe from Libya or something like that. And he's smoking a little cigarette. He's got these little beady eyes like a little rat, and he's looking back, and he's eyeballing her purse. She had this big pink Louis Vuitton purse, right? Big ass thing, man. And so she's holding it, and she's wearing a fur. She got diamonds all over. She's worth like $10 million just standing there, right? And so, and he's sizing her up. He's smoking a cigarette. He's walking back. It doesn't see me standing in the back.
Right.
And I'm kind of standing there watching, and he's going back and forth. And finally, I see he finally gets the nerve up. He's going to rob her, right? And he throws the cigarette down. He starts to make the move, and then I step forward, and he sees me, and I look at him. I go, "Don't do it," right? and he looks at me, and goes, "Oh, like this,
Habibi.
And he walks away, right? And I don't say nothing to the client. She has no idea this is going down, right? I just saved her ass, right? And the limousine shows up. We get in a vehicle. We drive back to the Four Seasons. We get out, and there's like 6 French dudes standing on the corner, right? They're all staying in the Four Seasons. You could tell they're, guys got money and stuff. They're wearing their trench coats and they're talking in French. Blah, 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 and they're talking about where they're going to go party or bar, whatever they're going to do, right? And they're shooting the shit. The door opens up. She gets out. She's got legs to kill. She's wearing this mini skirt, big ass boobs, and it's like she gets out and they're like, whoa. I did all dialing in on her. And I'm trying to get out of the vehicle on the other side. And so I'm coming around the corner. They don't see me yet. And they're looking at her, and I can tell they're getting ready to say something to her, right? Come on to her. And here I go again around the back of the car. I'm like, don't fucking do it, man. You're going to get me in trouble. Don't do it. And they look at me like, oh, okay. Like, whew. And we go inside, and she stops me, and she goes, did you see those men? Did you see the way they were looking at me? Blah, 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 blah. She's pissing and moaning me because they're checking her out. I'm like, yeah, ma'am. I said, yeah, but they didn't say nothing to you. That's
right.
Cool.
They didn't threaten you.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't do anything, right? It's just, they checked you out, right? So she goes up to the room. I go to my room. Next thing I get a phone call from the old man. Don't ever let anybody disrespect my wife like that again. I'm like, what? What am I supposed to do?
Right.
Beat the shit out of these dudes
right.
for checking her out,
Right.
Tell her to wear a burqa next time.
Right.
Nobody will look at her,
Right. Right. Yeah.
And but it was always that kind of stuff.
Right.
Always that kind of. This guy literally expected me to just beat the fuck out of people.
Right.
For looking at his wife, right? And
right.
And I was actually the smallest of the bodyguards. I was 6 foot, about 220. I was pretty yoked, man. I was about 5% body fat, and I was the smallest guy. All the guys were bigger than me. I hired them all. They're all big dudes and have bald heads. They were tail clones, just different colors and different nationalities.
Yeah.
And but he really wanted that. Everywhere we went, he wanted us to be flexing because we weren't carrying weapons. And every time we would go to his wife always wanted to go dancing, right? He's an old dude. He didn't want to go dancing, but he had to keep her happy. If he wanted to get those drawers, he better keep her happy. So we'd go to a bar, and she'd be out on the dance floor dancing. I'd have to stand on the dance floor next to her while she's freaking dancing, to keeping all the guys away from her because they all wanted to rub on her and shit, And then they go over and harass the old man because he's a little Chinese guy, And then I got to go over there and interfere, get back, leave the boss alone, It's like all day long, doing this kind of weird shit, It's
the worst, man. It's
not fun,
it's really bad when they want to start shit with other people and you have to intervene because they're talking smack.
She did that all the time, man. She would actually start trouble with other women and men, and then look at you like, do something. What?
Yeah, like you're a pit bull. Get in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were driving to the office one day, and she was in her pink Phantom, right? And she was in front of me. I was in the follow car. The road was really congested. Her office was about 100 meters down to the right. And so, being the way she is, right? She just gets out of the car, grabs her purse, and starts walking down the sidewalk. And I'm like, fuck. So I jump out of the car. I'm trying to keep up with her. And there's a guy leaning up against a light post, right? Just kind of leaning up against, looking at his phone. And she walks right up to him and karate chops his arm. Ka-choom! And he fucking falls over. And she just walks right past him. And he's like looking at her like, what the fuck? And I come walking in behind him and go, hey. I said,
yeah, right.
Hey,
yeah.
Crazy bitch. So, and he looked at me like, okay. I said, thank you. Because I don't want to be out there in the street fighting a guy because that's the kind of shit she's doing all the time,
Right.
But I've done a lot of bodyguard work, and it's always an adventure, it requires maturity.
Can you tell us the Singapore story?
Yeah, okay. So I'm writing a bunch of books, right? So as I mentioned earlier, after I wrote American Badass. I thought that was it. The sun was setting on my life. All the cool stuff was over, but it actually just started, man. We talked about Yemen already, L.A., Hong Kong. So then what happened was, so here in Indonesia, my wife and I own a security company. As I mentioned earlier, providing explosive detector dogs, control attack dogs for all the venues and stuff around here. And so I ended up going to Singapore to meet another guy, a friend, and he goes, "Hey, I want you to meet this guy." So I meet this guy. This guy is he's in the shipping business, right? Very wealthy guy, very wealthy, in his 40s. He's from India, but you'd never know it. You would think he's American. Everything about him said American, right? Everything. So he's like, "Hey, man, I got this big ass German Shepherd. I bought it for my kids. And he goes, I'd like to have them trained, very trained dogs. Would you be willing to come over here and train my dog for me?" I said, "Okay, you're playing, or you paying, I'm playing." So I ended up flying back and forth, going to Singapore to train a guy's damn dog for him. He lived in Sentosa Island, which is like Hollywood. Guy was very wealthy, Rolls Royce, Lamborghinis, married, 2 kids, and the dog. And so he wanted me to come over and train the dog for him. So I'd go over there for like a week at a time, hang out, in Singapore, go to his house 2-3 times a day, spend about 10 minutes training the dog, and then I was off on my own in Singapore hanging out. How cool is that shit? And I did that quite a bit. Kept coming back and forth. So one day, I'm walking with him and his son. His son's like 9 years old. His daughter's about 12. His wife is Iranian. I thought she was actually Russian, but turns out she was Iranian. And so he and I are walking, and we're walking with the dog. We're going down to the harbor, and he goes, "Hey, man," he goes, "You still doing security stuff?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I might need some help." Okay, what you need? So he tells me this story, right? So he's got this Instagram account, and he loves watches. Right, so he's always showing off all his watches on Instagram. Millions of dollars worth of watches. And so one day, apparently, this hot chick on Instagram, starts chatting him up. He starts chatting her up. She's in another country, and but nonetheless, they're chatting each other up. I'm sure there were dick pics and stuff floating around, but it kind of escalated in this thing, and so. Turns out over time, this chick on the other end is actually a dude, right? Which is probably part of a syndicate. And this was a setup. And so now they've got, all these compromising text messages, pictures, things like that, And so then they reach out to his wife and go, "Hey, this is us. Your husband's been flirting with this woman on Instagram, getting pretty out of hand, blah, blah, blah. We have more information. We got an entire portfolio if you want to see it, but, you got to buy plane tickets. We got to come to you. We got to hand it to you. You got to pay us. This is what the cost is going to be. You good?" So, she's thinking, "Oh, yeah, my rich husband's cheating on me, and I'm going to get his ass." So, so she buys this guy's ticket, one guy. She meets him at the airport. The guy goes, gets his baggage out of baggage claim. He's got a knife in the bag. He pulls the knife out, puts it in his pants, comes out in baggage claim. He meets her, puts the knife in her side, takes her over to the ATM machine. She cleans out the ATM machine. She's wearing a multi-million-dollar Cartier with all kinds of diamonds on it. He said, "I'll take that too, and all the money, and I'll take your cell phone." And basically just robs her right there, right? So he leaves. She thinks he left, but he didn't. He actually stayed overnight in a hotel. Well, guess what? She didn't put a passcode on her phone. Didn't put a passcode on the phone. Come on. Really? So he goes back to the room. He goes to their phone. He's got all the kids' phone numbers, husband's phone number, husband's contacts' phone numbers, clients' phone numbers, her phone numbers, alternate phone number. He's got everything on this phone. And he shoots her text messages, "Tomorrow morning, meet me at this corner on this ATM machine. Don't be late and be alone." She shows up again. Here we go again. Same old rodeo. Like a knife in the side, go to the ATM machine, empties it out, takes whatever else he can take off her, and he disappears. So she still hasn't told anybody. And so The other guy goes back. He's actually, so he's Iranian, but he lives in Turkey. Okay. With a network in Russia a lot. All right. So, and I know all this for a reason. So he goes back, he starts messaging the kids, send them video. He's holding a gun, he's holding a knife. You know, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You know, he's threatening the kids. All right. And basically the old man goes, what's going on? And finally the wife says, hey, this is what happened. They go to the police, they check the camera, sure shit, it's all true. Right. But they can't get this guy because he's in another country. They can't extradite him. So when he comes back, we can arrest him. Otherwise, no show. And I said, you know what's happening, right? I said, this guy's threatening your kids, threatening you. He's going to call your clients. He's got compromising pictures. I said, this is not over. I said, he'll never come back because he knows a warrant out for his arrest, but he's going to send somebody else in his stead.
Right.
And you won't know who it is
until
it's too late. They're going to threaten you. They're going to want money. And if you don't do it, they're going to hurt you or your kids. And so you're fucked. And he knew it, right? And I knew it. I knew the play. And so he's like, can you help me? I said, yeah, of course. Costs money though, but you know, I ain't doing this shit for free, you know? And so that turned into, okay, a phased approach. I gotta be careful what I say, but it turned into a phased approach. I contacted a guy. He's a German. He's a private investigator. He's got a military background. Good dude. I've actually been working with him since then on some other projects, and he was very well connected. Very well connected. I told him what the problem was. Told him, gave him an idea who the guy was. We had that information off the Instagram. We had some other sources I was able to tap into. We knew who the guy was. We knew where he was. So now what we had to do is tap into local resources to PID him. Track him down. We literally had cameras, from streetlight cameras, of this guy in his car with his Mercedes license plates, to include he's wearing a damn watch he stole from the wife. The Cartier, he's got it. So, you know, it's like, damn, you can't, you know, wow. And so anyways, so the mission was, all right, first of all, proof of concept. I'll show you that we can find him and we can get to him. But then, you know, then there's the next parts of this thing. You got to pay for everything,
right?
You know, but the first one's just proof that we did it. We can do it. Second part is, you know, the deployment phase, and then the employment phase, execution. Did I say execution? No, the employment phase. I gotta watch what I say, right? So, anyways, it was a phased approach, right? And so basically, it required. The only way you're going to get to this guy is you got to get to this guy. And you got to get this guy with all the stuff, get it back, and make sure that he never does anything like this again. Because start figuring out he belonged to a bigger syndicate. There's a syndicate out there. There's lots of them out there that this is what they do.
Right.
Internet scams, and they don't fuck around, man. They will fly around the world to complete their mission, man. And they don't care, man. So, anyways, all that happened. The details will be in the book. I don't want to say too much because it could be misinterpreted what actually happened, what didn't happen. But,
misconstrued.
Those are the kind of, yeah, and these are the kind of things that have happened to me. You know, that here I am minding my business, training a guy's dog in Singapore, and next thing you know, I'm like, what? Going head to head with fucking Iranians. So, you know, it's like, wow. So, anyways, yeah, it never ends, man. It never ends. You know, I mentioned a story earlier as well that happened to me here in Bali when I came back with the military and people trying to arrest me, and ISIS. There was an ISIS cell here. You know, I believe they were targeting me and my business partner, but it's like it never ends. I told you my friend, right, earlier before the show, Dean. He's making a movie not a movie, a TV series in the Philippines. I think this is year number 3. He called me about 5 days ago, asked me if I could come to the Philippines. 1, help him with security. He feels threatened, but 2, he wants me to have a major role on the show with him. And the story is called something in paradise.
I think it's
Lost in Paradise.
Almost Paradise.
Yeah, that's it with D. Kane.
Yeah.
Not Christian Kane. I mean Christian Kane. And so he's a DEA agent. He's medically, discharged. He decides I'm gonna live in the Philippines in paradise, just live on the beach, chasing women, having a good time. And all of a sudden, he finds himself rolled up in this with the mob and the syndicate and all this crime shit. And I'm like, you know what? That sounds like my damn story.
Yeah.
It's like it's the same damn story, except mine's in Bali, man. This is in the Philippines, But I don't look for this stuff. It just happens. It just shows up. There's another story I didn't really delve into, and that was Dubai. I was approached by an American who lost his visa. So what happens, like in the Middle East, is if you owe money to anybody there, banks, the government, you're in any kind of debt, what they will do is take your visas, strip you of your passport so you can't leave the country. They call it a velvet cage. You can't do anything. You can't work, you can't leave. You're just there until you pay your debt back. How you going to pay your debt back if you can't work, you can't leave? That's up to you to figure out. Otherwise, you're not going nowhere. You're going to live in a hot box for the rest of your life. That's what it takes. So I had a guy approach me, American, interesting fella, former infantry guy, he black guy, and he just one day just said, I'm going to move to Dubai and open up an HVAC company and a deep drilling company. 11 Bravo infantry guy, and he does this. Like, damn, and he was worth millions, right? And he was very successful. And then he had some medical issues with one of his kids. He owed the hospital a lot of money, and in 2010 is when they had to bust in the Middle East. Everything went under financially, right? So suddenly he found himself owing lots of money, and he ain't got it. And they stripped him of his passport. His wife and kids got out of country. He didn't make it out. So he'd already been there for like 5 years. When he met me one day in a bar, I was going to get something to eat, and I walk in. I'm wearing my yellow Python cowboy boots. And he recognizes the boots. He recognizes me from social media, comes over to me, goes, hey, are you, Dale Comstock, And I'm always like, why? Who wants to know? Okay, friend or foe? Okay, friend. So he's like, hey, I follow you and the boots, blah, blah, blah. You got some bullshit, got to talk. But he didn't tell me his dilemma yet, right? And we exchanged phone numbers. I go back to Indonesia. A couple months later, he texted me, said, hey, man, are you coming back? I said, yeah, I'm going to be back here soon, because I like to meet. So we meet, and he tells me a story, right? He's been living there for 5 years, can't get out. He's like, can you get me out? So, get me out of country. The problem is all the neighboring countries have laws of reciprocity, like Qatar, they'll turn you back in, right? Mm-hmm. You can't get out. So there's only really one way out. You can do the long walk through the desert and hope to God you never get compromised, but you still got to go somewhere. Or you go via the ocean somewhere. Right. And so I told him I could help him, but, it's going to cost money. I'm doing this out of my pocket. And so there was a lot of issues with getting a guy out over the ocean. So I would need to be able to take him by boat at least 500 miles. That means I need a big goddamn boat that can hold a lot of fuel, right? Which costs a lot of money. So it gets worse and worse and worse, right? But I said, so I finally convinced him, you got any buddies that need to get out too? I don't care. If foreign nationals, you got 4 or 5 guys.
Yeah.
You guys, y'all chip in, and it'll be a lot easier to get out. I had a pretty good plan too, man. It was a really good plan. I had to do a lot of secret squirrel stuff because one thing about the Emirates, if you go to Dubai or Abu Dhabi, anywhere over there, you'll never see a cop. You'll never see a cop. They don't need cops. You know why? Because they got one hell of an informant system, and they got CCTV camera everywhere. Right? Everybody's an informant. Everybody gets a blue chip if they rat you out, and everything's on camera. So it's pretty damn secure over there. It's real secure. And somebody's watching. They're always watching. I show up one night. I go to this bar, and I'm there with a bunch of chicks, and they're, and I got my book. And all of a sudden, about 30 minutes later, this dude shows up, sits down next to me, and goes, hey, how you doing, Dale? Who the hell are you? He goes, well, I'm with immigration, I'm with this and that and that and that. He goes, how about tomorrow you and I meet for lunch? Okay? It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. You know, it's like, hey, dude, I'm just trying to get some drawers and I'm selling my book. You know, it's like, we'll talk tomorrow. I go, yeah, I'll see you. I'll see you there. Then, you know, of course, I never went and saw them, but they're good, man. They're really good. So everything I had to do over there had to be under the radar, you know, and I'm always got to be super, super careful. So anyways, that turned into, you know, safe houses, rat lines. You got issues with international waters, passports, leaving the docks, you know. I had a good plan, though. I had a really good plan. It involved jet skis. So, but anyways, that was another one of my little adventures. Again, here I am just minding my business in a bar, trying to get a drink, maybe find some nookie somewhere, and this guy wants to freaking help me escape from the country. And I talked to my lawyer. I go, hey, I said, what do you think about this? He goes, what would you call this if I did this? He goes, human trafficking. I said, okay, got it. Forget I said anything, all right? So I kept them out of the conversation after that. I was like, we're not having this conversation, human trafficking. What? So, yeah, but I guess he's right. I guess that would be human trafficking.
Let's hit up some user questions here, Dave. And
Yeah.
For people who are watching, Dale, if they want to contact you to procure your skills
Services
as a security consultant or concubine or whatever the case may be, I won't say human trafficker. Where can they find you?
So I'm mostly on Instagram now. Official American Badass, Dale Comstock. I'm really getting far away from Facebook. I'm still on there. I actually got banned. I got banned from LinkedIn and from Twitter. You know, for stating an opinion that, of course, you know how that all works. So they didn't like it because it's me. But they actually gave me my Twitter account back yesterday. And LinkedIn, I'm still working on that. But and I only use those. Well, anyways, that's another story. So you can find me on Twitter now. Maybe LinkedIn. Try to get it reinstated today. But for sure, Instagram, Facebook. I have a website, dalecomstock.com. You can go through that. You can reach out, email me through there. My email address is americanbadass@dalecomstock.com. Pretty easy to remember, americanbadass@dalecomstock.com. So you can reach me there as well. Those are the main ways to catch up. I'm not hard to find.
And people can I know you're working on numerous books right now, and honestly, thank God you're immortal because you know it'll take time to write all those stories. But for your first book, people can read American Badass. It's available on Amazon. It's available anywhere people buy books.
Amazon.com. Yep.
And it's interesting because, you know, you talk about building these improvised explosive devices for, you know, when you're working with UAE. And, you know, what a lot of people don't understand who haven't been in the military or haven't been in that situation is that explosives and breaching is it's its own very specific field. And when you were in Delta, you were the breacher in Panama for the American hostage cruise. Like you breached the cell there, which, you know, after years and years of combat in Afghanistan and Iraq and whatever, like Panama is such a forgotten event. But at a point in time, it was one of the primary combat events that had happened in U.S. history of that time.
Yeah, no, and you're right. It's you know. It was well executed, well planned, well executed. You know, we didn't take any casualties of the assault team that went in. I think it's 23 or 26 of us total. We had WIAs, we got helicopters get shot down, but nobody was KIA'd, and we completed the mission. We saved Kurt Muse. We plucked them out of the jaws of death, man, literally, and. It's an amazing story when you read it. You know, it's when you know all the details that went into that. Things that could have went bad. You know, like my little faux pas there at the door. You know, I fixed it though, and he's alive, so it's all worked out. But yeah, you know, I look at that. I look at my whole military career. So, you know, I started out in the 82nd Airborne Division Infantry, long range scout. The 4-year mark, had to make a decision. Do I want to stay in? Do I want to get out? Decided to go for the gusto. I'm going to try out for Delta, which was almost statistically impossible for me to succeed. But I did at the age of 23, youngest guy ever. average age 33. Next thing you know, I'm there for 10 years. I go to the Q course while I'm there. I become a light and heavy weapons guy. And I'm going to 3rd Special Forces Group, became a team sergeant. I had seen combat, every combat event since 1983 Grenada, right up to the present, in fact. I've been to all of them with the exception of Bosnia. That's the only one I didn't participate in because I was in that transition, retiring out of the military. But I don't feel like I really missed anything either. But I've been in every conflict since that time up to the very present, to include Yemen. But I went from, I thought, okay, going to Delta, that's, I remember guys used to say that's the final frontier of the military. That is the pinnacle. Everybody, look, SEALs, Delta Force isn't trying to be a SEAL, but we've got SEALs that are trying not to be Delta. Everybody wants to be at the pinnacle. That's Delta. And so I thought, man, I reached the pinnacle at the age of 23. Then I get out, and then I get recruited by the Alphabet Company. And, as you know, Dave, it's not easy, right? Getting through all that, the vetting process, the polygraph testing, the background checks. There's a lot that goes into that, and a super high attrition rate, probably higher than the unit. And so, but here we are, right? Made it. And so then I thought, well, I thought Delta was the final frontier. Okay, I guess this is the final frontier,
right.
Or is it? And then I get approached with this whole other thing, this mercenary work. And then I realized, no, that's actually the final frontier, because now I'm going down range with the same weapons Al-Qaeda has. I'm literally sewing like a grandma. I'm sewing my freaking equipment, trying to make shit to fight with, right? I'm improvising everything I got. And I'm going to go in a street fight with the bad guys, no better equipped than they are.
Right.
And the only thing that's going to win the day is my skills themselves versus their skill set.
Right.
And so to me, that was the ultimate. That's the ultimate warrior right there. When you can go to combat and you don't have big army behind you to support you, you don't have close air support, you don't even have a medic to drag your ass off the battlefield. It's just you and them, and it comes down to your training and your mindset and your warrior spirit. When it comes to that, and you walk away and you're still got your arms and legs, it's a win. And to me, that was the ultimate. So I feel like I've gone the entire gamut, the entire spectrum of warfare as a warrior, from, basic infantry guy to mercenary and everything in between. And it's never enough. It's never enough. Right? So I sit here and I ask myself, if somebody were to come here right now and go, I've got an opportunity for you, if you'd be interested, there's a pretty good chance I'll say two things. How much? And when do I leave?
Right.
That's the truth. It's in the blood, man. Once it's in there, it's in there. You can't, you always go back for another drink at the well until you fall in the well and can't get back out,
Well, it's funny too, and this is getting to the questions that people ask, but somebody sent us an email earlier, and on our Patreon, and join our Patreon if you're not a member. Why aren't you? But somebody's writing D, and you're talking about always reaching that top and then going out and sort of being this consummate warrior, even when you're fighting without all the U.S. support, without the aircraft, without all this. And somebody wrote D and said, there's an old Team House episode where a viewer asked the guys, they asked Jack and I, for the 12 people they would want on their ODA or their team in combat. And Dave said he would take himself and 11 Dale Comstocks. And
I better start reproducing them.
but like we've known each other for a long time, and you've always been that. You have been that sort of Casca eternal warrior, that the guy that was bred for war. And we interview a lot of we interview people who were like Mac V Sog and then went to Rhodesia, and like that is you're the modern equivalent of
guys still getting after it as they're pushing 70. I mean, we know some of those dudes,
the man bred for war.
Yeah, no, it's, you're right. And I do know some of those guys. You probably know the same guys we're talking about, that they're actually also my inspiration. When I see these guys, like, Jesus, you're 78 years old and you're still out there kicking ass. what they have done is they've broken paradigms for me, because we all are inculcated this mindset that, you know, we only have so much utility, so much shelf life, you know, when in fact we can fight. Look, man, some of the best warriors are the oldest warriors on the planet, man. You know, you got everything. You got experience. You're ornery. You know, you freaking don't take a lot of shit no more, and you've gotten past all the fear and stuff. You know, and it's always been a part of who I am growing up. You know, my dad was in the Army for 20 years. I grew up mostly in Germany at the bases over there, and I remember all we did as the boys. You know, we would go out with our BB guns and our dad's Army equipment and helmets and K-pot and load-bearing equipment and play Army every day and shoot each other with BB guns and shit, you know, and hand-to-hand combat. We played war, and that's what I was brought up in. It was playing war. I was in the Agogi already when I was a little kid, man, you know, and it just seemed like a natural fit, because when my dad retired, you know, we retired out of Fort Huachuca, Arizona. We moved to San Francisco. I mean, how cruel is that, right? So, and I go to San Francisco, and I'm like a fish out of water. I go, holy shit, you know, these kids are not like the people I'm growing up around. You know, it's a totally different culture, and I couldn't wait to go back. I couldn't wait until I was of age, and I was able to go to the recruiter. And so as soon as I was old enough, I went down and signed the papers and put me in, coach. I couldn't wait to go back, because the military culture is like no culture in the world. Unfortunately, we live in a society now where they're trying to dilute it. They're trying to water it down. It's all this political correctness crap is setting in. It's a different Army. I'm starting to see it, you know, and it's not the one I grew up in. And we'll see how that works out for us in the future. But something tells me it ain't going to work out well. But that's the mindset I was raised in. You know, I was always a warrior. I was always a fighter. Even my parents, you know, my parents were like, turn the other cheek and walk away. They're like, kick his ass. If you don't kick his ass, don't come home. I'm going to kick your ass. Right. You know, that was my parents, man. You know, they were warriors too. My mom and my dad. You know, they were pit bulls and expected me to fight. And if you got hurt, tough shit. You come home, or hurt you again for losing, you know, you little wimp. And so that's how I was raised. And guess what? I'm not a bad guy. I have no criminal record, zero. You can check it out. There's nothing. I've never done nothing wrong. I don't even have a speeding ticket. Okay. I'm a good dude. But what I do for righteousness. At least what I think is right. You know, I stand to fight for the weak. I stand for fighting for people that are the innocent, you know. That's what I'm here for. And the world needs guys like me, especially our country. They need us. Yeah. You know, they need us, you know, and whether they like it or not, they need us, you know. And so I'm proud of that, and I have no regrets. It's made me who I am. I've learned a lot of lessons. I'm not perfect, made a lot of mistakes. But I continue to grow, continue to evolve. And even though I said earlier I'm 59 years old, I don't feel like I'm 59. I'll stomp the shit out of any 29-year-old out there, man, all day long. Yeah. You know, I can still shoot. I can still fight. I can still do everything I did before, because I choose to think that way. Right. You know, I choose to think that way. And I'll always be a warrior. I kind of like paradise right now, but you know what? Like I said, somebody walks in that door, go, hey, Comstock, I got a deal for you. Yeah. How much and when do we leave?
Let's roll into some viewer questions.
Podium One, thank you very much. Can you talk about the funniest experience and lesson learned from Gary O'Neill?
Repeat that again. The funnest experience.
The funniest, the funniest experience learned. Oh
yeah. So I met Gary O'Neill in 1982 out at Camp McCall. Now back then he was a stud, black hair. You know, the guy was a freaking machine, man, and he still is, man. I love Gary, man. He's a good dude. Didn't know anything about him. My whole platoon, my alert platoon, went out to Camp McCall to the SEER course. And it was cold. I remember it was like November, and we went in the bear pit every morning to do hand-to-hand combat, right? So you remember, you know, the sawdust pit, you know, especially when it's cold and it's wet, it's like freaking concrete, right? So, but we're out there and we're standing in a circle in our patrol caps, stuff, you know, young guys. And then Gary comes out, and he's the instructor for the combatives portion. We don't know anything about this guy. And then we start hearing the stories, right? Guys walked through 77 ambushes. You know, Vietnam, Murph, this, that, silent sector takeout, you know, he's the expert with the knife, and he's been taking dudes out all his life, like, whoa, what the fuck, right? And then he starts going into the mind over matter stuff, right? And like, okay. So he has a bucket of water out there, a couple buckets of water with a rope tied to it, and he's got bicycle spokes. And he starts with taking one of the bicycle spokes, and he pulls the skin out of his neck, and he jabs the bicycle spoke to his neck, right? And then he picks up the rope from the bucket with water, loops it around the thing, and he lifts it up, and his neck's all stretched out, and he's going around in circles to spin the bucket. And we're like, holy shit, right? And then he stops, and he puts the spokes through his arms, right? And he lifts up the buckets again, and he's swinging them around, right? And we're like, this is some masochistic shit right here, right? And then he lays down, and he has a dude drive over him with a quarter-ton Jeep over his belly. And he gets up and goes, see, I don't mind, it don't matter, right? It's like, Jesus Christ, right? He goes, I'm going to teach you how to fight and how to win and how to kill, And I was in awe, man. I was like, wow, this guy is like a real-life superhero, man. I just saw it. And so right then and there, Gary O'Neill became my military mentor for the rest of my life. I have modeled myself as a soldier after him. No shit. I read the books, right? I'm like, this dude, that's what I want to be like. I want to be that guy, And so I followed Gary over the years, got out, he started bouncing. I've heard all the stories, He was hanging around Jim West, Smokey, he's a good friend of mine. And then there was Chanas and all those guys, and I heard all the stories and stuff. I thought, man, that's why I want to be a soldier, to guys like that. That's the kind of, I want to be that guy, It reminds me of when I went to third group one time, the command sergeant major calls me his office, just met him. And he's like, Comstock, let me ask you a question. He goes, what's wrong with Rambo? I said, Rambo? He goes, yeah, what's wrong with Rambo? I thought about it, and I go, I don't know, nothing. He goes, that's right. There's nothing wrong with Rambo. He goes, why can't we be more like Rambo? And I'm like, yeah, Sarge, yeah. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Why are we going to be these little gentleman warriors, pussies, right? And let's be fucking Rambo. He goes, there's nothing wrong with Rambo. He goes, I want you to train on my ODAs in combat, hand combat. And I right on. So I did. I started running all the hand-to-hand training for a 3rd Special Forces group. I was running A teams through my training every 2 weeks, another team. Every morning on my own time, 0500 to 700 in the morning. I was going in on my own time, training ODAs and combatives, wrote the manual, all that shit. But so I look at Gary O'Neill, right? It's always been my mentor. We've crossed paths here and there. We've done some interviews together. And what was interesting is when I wrote my book, American Badass, I did not know that he was actually writing American Warrior at the same time. At the same time. American Warrior, American Badass. I go, man, that is so cool. He's my mentor. He is the American Warrior. I'm just a dumbass, badass, following him, And so I'm the American Badass. He's the American Warrior. And I just thought that was really kind of cool that, my mentor is writing the book also, and I'm able to write a book because of his mentorship. Of what he showed me early in life, He molded me as a warrior, as a soldier. Now, I've got a lot of mentors. My father was my mentor, big time, my number one mentor, my grandfather. Jim Smokey West was actually one of my mentors for martial arts. I mean, this guy taught me how to really fight.
Yeah.
You guys know.
Yeah,
Jim.
we've had him on.
Scary, man.
And Smokey, yeah.
So he's actually one of my mentors as well, right? And then Gary O'Neill. So I've got different mentors for different parts of my life, but I'm the amalgamation of all of those guys, the good and the bad. And that's who I am. And so, hopefully now, I am now a mentor for many out there. I do have a lot of young men that follow me. I have a lot of coaching clients that come to me and go, hey, I want to learn, man. I want to learn the mindset, And so I teach them how to think, not what to think, how to think.
Right.
And that's what made all the difference is, this way of thinking that Gary has, and Jim has, and, my father has, and my grandfather has. There's certain people in this world that have shaped the way I think. And it's because of that, I am who I am today.
Christopher Wilson, thank you very much. Dale, do you think you would have whooped Tim Szymanski had that fight not been shut down?
Yeah, hell yeah. all day long, man. It's funny you said that, bring that up, because not too many people know about that. So it was I'm going to say like 1988, 89, something like that. I can't remember now. So I fought the first Vale Tudo match in the United States in Richmond, Virginia. Vale Tudo is Portuguese for anything goes. UFC was just coming out. I had an opportunity to fight this Vale Tudo match. So I went to Richmond. It was 3 5-minute rounds. It was a sanctioned street fight. There were no rules. I broke both my hands, jacked up the other guy, put him in a C-collar. And then I ended up in Richmond, Virginia, and I was invited to go up there. I think it was Frank Cucci. He had a school up there. He hosted this fight. I was invited to come up and fight Szymanski, who was at the time one of the blue team commanders, right? And apparently he was the collegiate level wrestler, All-American, blah, blah, blah. And they wanted me to fight him. So they couched it as, Navy SEAL versus Delta Force Battle of the Elite, right? So I go up there. Actually, the unit sergeant major went up there also to watch the fight, because we already had some beer bets going, because up to this point, I don't know if you've ever heard of the CT Olympics, but it's an event that happens usually like in Austria. They invite all the SWAT teams, counter-terrorist teams to come and compete, right? And it's usually 7,500 teams. We would field a team every year. We actually had to try out for this team. It was 5 guys and 2 spares. Dev Group would send their team, and we would beat everybody's ass, even the SEALs in the water. We outswam them, outshot them. We always took the top 5 positions, always, right? And so their sergeant major would have to keep giving my sergeant major a keg of beer. Right? It was always a beer bet or some shit like that. So they're like, okay, let these 2 guys fight, battle of the elite, fight for another keg of beer. So I'm going to go win another keg of beer for my sergeant major. And so we show up in the morning and, get all the work up with the doctor, the pre-checks. I think I'm good to go. I'm gonna come back that night. I'm gonna kick his ass. This is on my agenda. And so when I show up, they're like, "Hey, the SEAL got DQ'd," and I'm like, "Why? He got herpes." I go, "What does that mean?" He goes, "Well, if he squirts some herpes juice in your eyeball, you go blind and sue everybody." I'm like, "Really? What?" Okay, so and so they had me fight the West Virginia Tough Man champion, and I made short work of that guy. Freaking took him out pretty fast. But so I never got a chance to fight him. But could I have beat him? Hell yeah. I'm a fighter, man. I'm pretty damn good. One thing I got that most guys don't have is I got heart, man. I got big lungs, and I got a lot of endurance, man. You beat the shit out of me for hours. Eventually, you're going to wear yourself out, and I'm just going to beat you up, Yeah. But I think I could have beat him. No doubt I could have beat him. I know I could have beat him. There ain't too many guys that kick my ass, man. The only guy that kicked my ass is Jim West.
Yeah.
That guy scares me, man.
Yeah. I've been thrown across the room by him a few times, so I can attest. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think, I don't think the people who don't know Smokey understand just what, and not even just like how tough he is, but what a skilled fighter he is. Like, they don't understand what that actually means.
He's a skilled fighter. I'd go further than that. I've told them this before. He is a skilled instructor. He's one of the best instructors I've ever met in my life. And that's where his real, yes, he can kick your ass. We all know that. But his real strength, I think, is in instruction. I mean, he's phenomenally good.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man. First time I went to him, so my son, God, man, he's 34 now, but when he was 4, he was all into Ninja Turtles, right? And he was out doing karate chops in the front yard. And I said, "James, you want to learn karate like the Ninja Turtles?" Yeah. And so I ended up taking him to YMCA. Okay, that was a joke, right? It's a daycare. And we're not getting nothing out of this. I get on the phone with a friend of mine, Bart Wiggins. He's friends with Smokey.
Oh, yeah.
I go, "Dude," I said, "Dude, you got any recommendations?" He goes, "Yes, man." He goes, "You need to go see this guy, Smokey. Here's his address. Go there right now, right?" He said, "You won't regret it." I said, "Okay." So I go over there with my kid. I walk in. And there's all these boys out there about my son's age, and they got these padded baseball bats, and they're out there beating the shit out of each other. They're going for it, like a freaking brawl. And so Jim's like, "Hey, welcome in." He goes, "Hey, go out there and fight." And my son goes out there, grabs one, he's getting it on, he's smiling, he's happy. My kid comes out and says, "You like that?" He goes, Yeah. I said, "You want to do it?" Yeah. So that's how we actually got started. And I told my son, I said, "Listen, man," I said, "Here's the deal." I said, "If you start, you have to finish." What does finishing mean? It means you got to have a black belt. You got to win a black belt. You can't quit. You agree? Yes. And I thought, well, hell, why don't I just do it with him, right? Since I'm already here. So that's when I got involved, right? So now it's me and James, my son, fighting with Smokey, right? Training with him. And there was one other girl named Susan Mayran, Julie Mayran. She was pretty badass, man. She stayed in there. She was one of his other black belts, and she would take a beating and just kept coming back for more, man. She was amazing. But, so we trained with Jim, and by the time my kid was 7, he got his first 3 black belts through Jim. And Jim, look, you don't do katas and forms for your black belt, good boy, here's your belt. No, what we were doing is we were literally going to karate clubs, like in Virginia, closing the doors with their master and his students that he wanted to promote. And we go in the back room, and it was a sanctioned street fight. Me, my son, and my daughter back there kicking ass like a real street fight. No sparring. This is a fight. And whoever wins gets their belt, and we did that all day long, which was really cool watching my son, who's 7, watching my daughter, who's 9.5. They're out there freaking throwing stubs, man, beating the shit out of each other, man, freaking bare knuckles, rolling around, and they're earning their belt. And I go, that's what I signed up for. And nobody that I know of did that except for Jim West.
Yeah.
And, and so I learned from him. The guy has taught me a lot. Can't take nothing from him. I've got a lot of experience, because of him, even my own experiences now. But, if you want to learn how to fight, Jim West is the guy to go to, man.
Let's keep going through these questions here.
Alex Bennett, thank you. Dale, you started up quite a few successful security companies. What are the processes of starting up successful security company and keeping it good without a race to the bottom outfit?
Yeah, so my first company I started was right after 9/11. Actually, prior to 9/11, 7 months prior to 9/11. I started a company called Global Security Consultants. I started getting into nuclear security. Didn't know anything about nuclear security. Had no idea what I was doing. But I went to a security conference for the NRC. I said, hey, you guys, it's me. I'm here for nuclear security. If you ever need some help, call me, right? They all were scared of me and my partner. We looked wicked scary. We had to lure them over to our table with little shiny things. Go, hey, I'll give you this little knife. Come over here and let me talk to you, and give me your business card. Well, then 9/11 happened, and that's when this call started. Hey, we need to talk to you, blah, blah, blah. And that's how I got into the business. It was very successful. 2004, we sold our company to G4S, Whack and Hug. Now, what does it take? So I made a mistake. We made the mistake of selling the company in 2004. Why? Because we thought it's going to die off. Security's going to end, it's always overhead. We couldn't have been more wrong ever. Triple Canopy was started after my company. There's a long story behind that. But basically, one of the guys, the owner, plagiarized my website. I met the guy. I know the guy personally. He's in B Squadron. And all of a sudden, boom, I got a competitor. But they still couldn't get in the nuclear industry. Blackwater was competing with my company. They were just getting started. Again, I was keeping them outside of the nuclear security industry. I owned all of that. And then I sold the company thinking I got to get rid of it, make money. And then it never went away. So I ended up reincorporating again, a company called Risk Control Institute. I sold that in 2011. And then I've been doing that ever since. I've got my company here, Strategic Outcomes Indonesia. I have a company called Strategic Outcomes Florida. I have Tier 1 performance coaching. So these are small enterprises. Some of them are dealing with security. What's important is, and this is where everybody makes the mistake, they become discouraged. You got to have a dream. You have to imagine what you want, what it looks like. Every nuance about a company, you have to sense it in the here and now. Now that sounds kind of crazy, but it actually ties into what I teach, which is autogenic conditioning and future pacing. So this company I have here in Bali, I imagined it a long time ago. And I saw, I knew I'm the only guy to know anything about training canines, the only guy. So suddenly my wife, who doesn't know how to turn on a computer, didn't know how to turn on a computer 5 years ago, now runs a MacBook Pro because I trained her. I taught her how to use Excel sheets. I taught her about HR. I taught her, we need licensing. Okay, what do we got to do? Let her manage that. Oh, we need people. Okay, we need to train people. We need to find dogs. We got to train dogs. So what I did is a train-the-trainer program. I started with my wife. Then I hired a field supervisor. And then I hired trainers. And I trained the trainers. Trained the trainers to train the handlers, to train the dogs. And this thing started to grow and verge and blossom to the point where I don't do anything. My wife runs the entire company, every aspect of it. Licensing, payroll, HR, training. She trains the dogs. She trains the handlers. She does, a lot of the business interaction and networking, things like that. So but it started with a dream. The dream was I would love to live in Bali, paradise, right, where I have my own business and I get to take my dogs that I love, my pets, and make money off of them and train them. How cool is that? It's not really a job. And so I imagined everything I have, and it became a reality because Albert Einstein said, not just Albert Einstein, but Nikola Tesla and many other physicists, success is based on frequency. It's not philosophy, it's physics. It's physics. And this is the key. It's not about willpower. It has shit to do with willpower, it has shit to do with philosophy. It's only going to get you so far. What gets you over the finish line is imagining where you want to be and the life that you want to live. I'm actually living that life. No, I'm not rich. I don't want to be rich. That's not my objective. My objective is be happy and experience all the things I want to experience. And I live in Bali, and I live in the Philippines, and I live in Florida. How cool is that? And I make my own hours. Here I am. I come in at 7 o'clock this morning, do a call with you guys. It's the dream. It's the imagination, and it's physics. It's literally physics. It's always physics. That's another area. I can't go into that now, but it has to do with frequency. It has to do with your nervous system. It has to do with metaphysics. There's a lot more that goes into this, but all my successes, everything I've ever done in my life, had nothing to do with willpower. It had everything to do with imagination,
right?
Dream. So if you want to start a security company, start with the dream. What's it going to look like? What do you want it to look like? What do you want it to feel like? How do you want to live it? You start with that, then you invoke the next thing is called the law of action. You have to do something. Start doing the research, as I did. Start training the trainers, training my wife, started building it. All of a sudden, I'm a one-man army, and I got 65 employees. I got 45 trained canines. I got a corporation here with a lot of assets, and we're kicking ass.
Right.
It started with a dream.
Right.
It starts with.
Alejandro, thank you very much. Same question I asked Paul Howe. What do you think is the best and most effective piece of protective equipment and kit a team guy can wear, and why is it the mustache? Thanks for coming on, mate.
This has got 33 kills, my friend. All right?
That's right. R2D, did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, actually, I do have an answer to that. Body armor. All right. So when I was in the unit, all we wore was body armor with no plates, level 3A, right? And everybody just wore the vest except for me. I actually wore the collar, I wore the plates, and I wore the groin protector all the time. And people thought I was being a pussy. I go, no. And I had a conversation with Pete Blaber, who was my troop commander at the time. He wrote the book Mission of Men and Me.
Yeah.
We were having this conversation about body armor, and his attitude was, look, I want to be light, and be able to move fast. And I'm like, yeah, I want to be able to take a lot of hits and just keep on moving nice and slow and methodically and take them out. Right.
Yeah.
So it was we're opposing, opposing positions on body armor. Most guys didn't want to even have to wear it, but they had to wear it. So they wore as little as they needed.
Right.
So then Mogadishu happens, right? And freaking dudes are getting killed. Like the Protect helmet. Okay, I always wore the Kevlar helmet. I got pictures of me in the whole unit, everybody wearing Protect except me. I'm wearing Kevlar, right? Everybody thought I was just a pussy till Mogadishu happened. Then they couldn't find enough Kevlar helmets. They couldn't strap on enough armor. They couldn't reinforce their body armor. They didn't have it. I had it. I'm good.
Right.
Put me in. I'll fight the war by myself, right?
Right.
So to me, that's always, and I watched it go down in Afghanistan, right? So guys are going out humping the mountains and stuff, and all they're carrying is a plate carrier, right? They're going light, just a plate carrier. And like, why? Well, he goes the weight, And I'm like, well, dude, every FOB's got a gym now. Get your ass in there and go to work. Keep working out until you can carry all that weight and it doesn't affect you. I always wore full armor, full plates, full protection. Always. Always. I don't care how high up the mountain I'm going to go. I always wore it. And if If I was a weakling, I made sure I got into that gym and kept working out until I could maintain it. And I always carried armor. To me, it's the most important thing you can carry besides your weapon is your armor. I know a lot of guys that are alive today because they were wearing armor.
Right.
They were taking hits. They were taking hits right into the plate through their vest, and they were surviving it. So to me, that's the most important equipment you can carry is body armor. Give yourself a chance. If it's too heavy, get your ass in the gym. All right, work out. All right, build up to it. That body armor eventually will become a part of your body. You won't even know you're wearing it.
Yeah.
You won't. It's like my backpack. I carry a backpack around 35 pounds every day. It's my man purse. I've been carrying it forever, and I get used to it. It doesn't even bother me the way it carried all day long. Everybody else would be sniveling about it, but if you do something long enough, your body will adapt to it. And so my answer is armor. Wear your armor. Wear all your armor. Okay, so don't take no shortcuts. Just like you don't take a shortcut with your weapon. Okay?
And wear those plates, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. The plates stop. They stop with 7.62, man.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're not doing you any good.
R2D, thank you very much. Thank you, Team House. Love your work. Another phenomenal interview. Well, that's because we have a phenomenal guest.
Thanks.
Alejandro, thanks again. With all these things you've done in the private sector, how much do you think a giraffe would sell for on the open market? When he says open market, I think he means black market. And he says, hope you can come back. And definitely when your next book pops, Dale, we want you back.
Yeah. The giraffe is a bit of an inside joke, but if you had to wager what a giraffe goes for on the black market, what do you think, Dale?
I don't know, man. A giraffe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got me on that one. I have no idea. Do you have horns?
Well, Dale, like what if you showed up to one of your clients and they said, hey, I'm trying to get rid of this illegal zoo. The last thing I have is this giraffe.
Full-grown giraffe.
You live in Bali. Would you buy it? How much would you pay for a giraffe?
Shit. What am I going to do with a giraffe, man? Hey, they do have zoos here, and they actually do have, right here in Bali, they have the Bali Zoo, and they have all kinds of elephants and tigers and shit like that, stuff you would find in Indonesia. I don't know if you can find a giraffe here, but, we could probably add a giraffe for a couple bucks.
I think it was JT Patton who had that conundrum.
It was, yeah.
And I think he said it was like $36,000 or something.
I can't remember, but yeah. Sporman Group LLC.
Clint Sporman.
That's Clint Sporman. Thank you very much for the donation. I think that's Clint. Did you ever get a chance to meet or train with Carl Sestari before he passed?
I don't think so.
Yeah, he was that's where we all met Clint. He was a big World War II OSS Fairbairn Sykes.
Yeah. We'll have to introduce Dale to Clint the next time
for
he
sure.
comes into the city.
Jungle Jim Scott, thank you very much for your donation. We deeply appreciate it. And that's
it, man. Dale, thank you so much for doing this interview, waking up early out there in Indonesia to do this. This has been phenomenal, man. It's really fun to catch up with you again, talk some more about some of these wild adventures that you get into. And I'm looking forward to the books. You said that the tentative title for the next book about your adventures and misadventures is Running the Razor's Edge. You're still working on it, though, working on a few other projects as well. When you get some of these to publication, let us know. We'd love to talk some more.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is I've thought about what I'm going to do is make them all ebooks. It's easier to copyright it and send it out, right? And then if there's somebody that wants a hard copy, then I have a source I can go to that can actually print, right, for someone that wants a hard copy. But I'm going to because I actually sell mostly ebooks on Amazon. Even my book, most people just order, PDF copies of it. So kind of the way everybody's going now these days. So, but for those that want it for nostalgia purposes or an autograph, I'll make hard copies as well. But it's been on my agenda. It just seems like every day I get ready to sit down and start writing again, something pops up, another to-do thing. It's all good, though. It's all in the right direction. But I'll have it soon. I'm excited about getting it out. I'm excited about getting all the books out. I think that once I'm finished with the details and I I think some of them have potential to maybe be a movie, or could go down that road easily, because,
Absolutely, Dale.
Yeah, Dale, I recently, someone was talking about how this could make a great movie, and I volunteered myself to play a young Dale Comstock, Acid Gambit era.
We need to get him a suit, though.
No. Back in '89, like Dale was kind of like not quite my size, but he wasn't quite Dale's size today either. So I think 89 era, yeah. I could jump into that role.
Dale, so you're doing coaching now for either young people who are seeking success in whatever arena or even executives. Where can they find you for their coaching if they want to hire you?
I would recommend either go to my website, dalecomstock.com, or just directly email me, americanbadass@dalecomstock.com.
And do you do group coaching? Like if there were a bunch of like military hopefuls that wanted to like get together in a group, do you do things like that?
Yeah, I do group sessions. It's less expensive as well for them, It's more interactive. And then I do a lot of mostly private coaching. Most of the guys and girls that come to me, my primary demographic is men between 45 and 59 and women. I call them the old man clan. They're the ones that put the kids to college. The wife won't talk to them anymore. And they're fat and pregnant. And they're like, I want to recover my life. So I get those guys, and then I get men between 33 and 37. These are mostly business entrepreneurs. Some are veterans, some are not, but they're looking at how can I expand and build my business and do more. And then the other group is men from 19 to 26. They're either veterans or they want to go in the military and they want to go into special forces, special operations. And I have a unique program just for those guys to get them ready for it, to include a training program. In fact, I just signed a guy up last night. He's actually a police officer, SWAT, and he wants to try out for DEA selection, and he contacted me. So I'm going to kind of put him in that 19, 26-year-old category of training, prepare him for that. I do that. I do that quite often. I have a pretty full load. I can only take so many people at a time because the program is normally 8 weeks long. It's 2 hours, 2+ hours a week on a Zoom call like this. It's recordable, and it's goes in stages. But basically, what I teach people is how to think. Not what to think. I teach you how to think, and that's the key to this thing. I mentioned physics earlier. Success is based on physics. It is, and I teach the science behind success. It's amazing how it works. But I do coach. I've coached millionaires. I've coached people from all walks of life. I mean, you name it: photographers, police officers, soldiers. You name it. I've coached them. I've coached international coaches.
Can Jack sign up to be coached on how to hook up with a 31-year-old starlet?
Put me in the game, coach. Put me in the game.
It's real easy. Start with shaving the head and doing
the mustache. All right, I'll work on it.
The hair's got to go.
Yeah, the hair is going anyway. So yeah, might as well just cut to the chase. Guys, go check out Dale's book, American Badass, that's out today. Please check out our Patreon down in the description if you haven't already. You get access to these episodes ad-free and some bonus episodes and shit like that. It's cool. Next week, we're going to have Jim Morris on the show. He served in Special Forces in Vietnam. He is the author of War Story, The Devil's Secret Name, and his latest book is called The Dreaming Circus. I'm really excited to talk to him. He's a phenomenal dude. So we will be back next Friday with Jim Morris. Dale, again, thank you.
We love you, man.
Really appreciate it, man. And
thanks for having me.
We'll see everyone next Friday.
All right.